To the clerk, yes.
Okay.
Jenny, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Danny, thanks for joining the meeting remotely, even though you're sick. We really appreciate it. We would not have had quorum without
No.
you.
Yep, I understand. Yeah, and I apologize for being ill tonight.
No. I just want to welcome everybody in the audience here today. Really feels great having such a full house. We usually don't have that many people here with us, so this is great. Gives us a lot of energy. And as a resident of South Boulder myself, really appreciate everybody coming out and sharing your thoughts with us. So thank you. Okay, so let's approve the agenda. Do I have a motion? So moved. Right,
Second.
great. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Agenda is approved. Ally, you want to walk us through future board items and tours?
Do that, Mr. Chair. Folks, I'm Ally Rhodes. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. At this part of the meeting, we just give an overview of what's coming up in the next 3 months for the board, council, and other events. Because we have a lot of people here, I'm not going to read it all to you line by line. That would be boring, but it's in the packet that is available online. The big one's just calling out again, we are in the budget review process for 2025 budget with City Council. They had their study session a week ago Thursday. We've not heard any questions or follow-up specific to the Parks and Recreation budget. We would let you know at your next meeting. Your next October meeting, they'll have had their first and second hearing for the 25 budget. Those are scheduled for Thursday, October the 3rd and Thursday, October the 17th. For community members, that's when council approves the budget for the coming year. So we are doing the final steps for our budget preparation, and that is the fee policy conversation. Jackson's going to give you an overview tonight, and then you'll have a deep discussion on it next month. That'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is public participation. We clearly have some folks here for that. Do we have anybody online or is it all in person?
Yeah, we do have quite a few online, and I do have a list of the people that did sign up to speak.
Okay, in person?
Well, so I have some online, and so apologies, I did not expect all of these folks on in person. So I did take some names. I'll call you by name.
Great, thank you.
So a little bit here, a little bit there.
Okay, and we're going to start with the folks who came in person to do public comment versus online. So thanks for coming in person. This portion of the meeting is for members of the public to communicate ideas or concerns to the board regarding parks and recreation issues for which a public hearing is not scheduled later in the meeting. Tonight, there are about 16 folks making comment. Is anybody signed up to make comment on the action item we have, which is the easement licensure?
No.
Okay, good to know. So there is a scheduled item later in the meeting, which people can comment on, but if nobody signed up for that, we'll just do all of the public comment now. During this public participation time, the public is encouraged to comment on the need for parks and recreation programs and facilities as they perceive them. All speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Depending on the nature of your matter, you may or may not receive a response from the board after you deliver your comments. The board is always listening to and appreciative of community feedback. Rosa, will you please present the additional guidelines and then call on our first speaker?
Yes, I have them listed on the board here. All remarks and testimony shall be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct this meeting is prohibited. And thank you for all of those that did sign up with first and last name. I do ask that if you are online, that you are set up with first and last name so I can call on you. For the others, I do have first and last name. Thank you.
Okay. When you're ready to proceed with public comment, you can call the first person as so long as we're starting with the folks in the room.
I am going to start with Catherine Cameron. And if you can come to the corner here, Catherine. We will begin your 3-minute timer.
Yeah, so right here,
Yes, right there.
okay.
You may begin.
All right, so I'm here to talk about the potential closure of the South Boulder Rec Center. Again, my name's Kathy Cameron. I'm a 30-year resident of South Boulder, and I've used the South Boulder Rec Center the entire time that I've lived there. Like many other people who are going to speak tonight, I'm really upset about the thought that that center might be closed permanently. It's a place where everyone from children to senior citizens goes for enjoyment, for mental and physical health. So I want to make some points about that. First is that Boulder is really a city that thrives on recreation. I think anyone that lives here knows that. All 3 rec centers are heavily used. If you read Boulder Daily Camera, you know that there's big concern about not having enough swim lanes, for example, for lap swimming, for team swimming. If the South Center is closed and everyone has to go to East, of course, that problem is just going to be magnified. And then there's a Fairview swim team practices at South, and many of the Fairview students also work out there. So that's another issue that should be considered. Boulder has added recreation centers as the city has grown. The population has almost doubled since the South Center was built and is still growing rapidly. The demand for the rec centers is not going to decrease, it's going to increase. So why take away 1/3 of our recreational opportunities? That's mystifying. I'm also mystified about the fact that we've had long, expensive renovations on the North Center. And we're gonna have similar expensive renovations on the East Center. But apparently no one has ever considered South as needing them, or that we even should try that. So how can that be, and who is making these decisions? The argument that the building has reached the end of its life cycle doesn't actually ring true to me. I looked up the International Building Code. It's written for an 80 to 100-year lifespan. There are historic buildings all over the country that are older than South Boulder Rec Center, including your courthouse, which was built in 1933, more than 40 years before the South Center. And then Parks and Rec says it wants our input, but I learned that the 2021 facilities plan and the 2022 Boulder Parks and Rec plan both confirmed that the South Center would be closed. Both plans were confirmed by the city council. In other words, nobody at this point wants our comment. They just want to convince us that closing it is a good idea. So thank you for the opportunity to talk. And finally, I just wonder who in the city council or, in the city government could help us with this problem. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call Miss Finnegan.
Hello, my name is Lisa Finnegan, and I am a 25-year user of the South Boulder Rec Center. I hope by speaking tonight, we can stop relying on rumors and can gain clarity. In 1999, I started working at South as a tennis instructor and a childcare attendant. When we had our 3 boys, we enrolled in many programs at South. For example, preseason for Barracudas, mom and talk classes, sports sampler classes, community Halloween parties. As you may know, adolescence is a crucial time for developing social and emotional habits important for mental well-being. South helped our boys feel welcomed, included, and that they belong to a community. The level of service decreasing at South is the last thing that this community needs, especially with suicide being the 4th leading cause of death in adolescence. If anything, the community needs more services at South to prevent teen suicide. South was and is a safe place for them to feel like they belong and are welcomed, and provides a platform for them to play, compete, and socialize with friends. In fact, my son informed me that while he was at Mesa, Southern Hills, and Fairview, the students were instructed to run to South Boulder Recreation Center for safe haven in the event of an active shooter. Overall, Our kids have had to deal with evacuations from wildfires, the Boulder flood from 2013, a pandemic, and a mass shooting at our local grocery store. Where will they run if South is not rebuilt? King Supers? In terms of the engagement survey, which I struggled to navigate, it did not ask what type of classes we would like, the time of day we would like them offered, or what hours the center should be open to meet the community's needs. In regards to moving services to East, this would just be another barrier for our youth and families to overcome. In fact, the Fairview Girls swim coach informed me last night that she lost 27 swimmers when the pool was shut down at South for repairs. A third of her team had to quit swimming because they were not able to commute to practices at East. In terms of next steps, I look forward to continuing the dialogue and perhaps seeing you at the South Boulder Rec Center 50th year celebration, and to understand more about how decisions are made with regards to our rec centers and how to have a voice in those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Boylan?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Boylan. I'm a 45-year resident of Boulder, 30 years in South Boulder. And like the other speakers, that's my daily routine is going there, literally daily or 6 days a week. And I'm here for the same reason, to talk to you about South Boulder Rec Center. The facility master's plan says that one of the rules that you're supposed to go by is to build for the community we serve. It's on page 71 of the 21 plan. Seems to me that shutting one of the facilities is not in accordance with that. Consolidating would make sense if Boulder was a dying city, but Boulder is a growing community, as you've heard. And so reducing our options from 3 to 2 is also not in accordance with the right pattern for this community. It also is counter to our ideals of a walkable city, walkable neighborhoods, the ability to do things without having to get in the car, get on the bus, go long distances, and, basically you defeat that. You've stated, just in the August meeting, support for transparency on the part of the board. I would urge you to post that all of the data and the dates they were collected behind the decisions that have been made and are being made, so that we can help understand what's going on and develop some options and understanding of our own, of what challenges are. Regarding the current South Boulder, obviously, it's built in a poorly drained swampy valley. That presents some construction and engineering issues that have been solved since Roman times, so it's not that new, but there are new technologies, new engineering approaches, one-pass trenching. I'm not advocating that you necessarily do this for the current structure, but for a new structure. The current structure, as I understand it, and I've been to all the rec centers, is the only one with a basement swimming pool and gym. It's the basement floors that have had the problems. So let's think forward towards a different type of design. Let's see, the path forward I would suggest is to seek a bond or certificates of participation to get the funding for it, and to maintain the existing facility under the required operations and maintenance that should be done, which I believe has been deficient. I haven't seen the O&M manual, but I would bet on that, given my observations of the repairs and everything that went before and after. Leverage the new technologies. Install layered foundation drains, groundwater diversion systems, properly prepared subgrade for the building, whether it's got a basement or not. We need a better facility, and we need one in South Boulder. Thank you.
Nick Foyer? Apologies.
Hello, my name is Nick Fiore. I live in South Boulder since 2012. I'm an architect here in town. I had some stuff written, but I'm just gonna ramble, so I apologize if it's nonsensical in advance. Like I said, I'm an architect. I work with the city a lot. Work with this, maybe not the best way to put it, but I pull permits often and I deal with the city a lot. I've been on the landmark board. I've been in your position slightly. My main concern, other than obviously the rec center closing, which we're all, I think, also here for, is the way that it's been communicated along the way has been sort of the way the city's been doing things for several years now, which is things kind of burying the lead in these reports, right? We don't really ever get a full accounting of why or how or when things are going to happen. I even have an email from last summer from a council member that said this isn't going to happen. But here we are, right? And we're seeing language from the city staff now. I received an email, in fact, where the rec center was talked about in this past tense, right? And I have some emails to the council that I fired off immediately after that I wouldn't share with my grandmother, but there's a backhandedness to it that feels really dirty to us down in South, to me, down in South Boulder. I'm not gonna speak for them. But I'm used to it as I deal with the city a lot and I see how these things work. If Nuria and council want to consolidate and shut down one unit, they need to be accountable to it, to the city citywide and to us about how that works with the 15-minute neighborhood model that we're all shooting for. How that reduces energy use and how that's a sustainable future for the city. I think we all know what the answers to that are. So the city has a new portal for getting permits where all the city staff hide behind the portal. You can't email them, can't really phone call them anymore. There's a patterning here about how this is working as well, right? You bury the lead on closing it. We're being told in the aftermath of the decision, in a sense. And so we have to gather and do this really quickly, come at you with all this vitriol and sort of, disorganized passion. But at the end of the day, if we all imagine closing Sanitas because they're running out of money, would that ever happen? Which trailheads would you pick to close if Nuria came to you and said, we're going to consolidate trailheads? Which one of these should we close? Which ones right up against the town should we close? So I'll wait for that list. Thank you.
Do I have Pat Kerrigan?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't get your sheet. That's okay, that's okay. I am ready for you.
Right, I won't threaten you, Megan. It's on the rules. So I'm Pat Kerrigan. I've lived in Boulder my entire life. I grew up at this rec center. My kids grew up at this rec center. My kids worked at the rec center. My father swam there till he was 85 and died. He didn't die in the pool. Yeah. And I've been trying to find out, like everybody else, what's going on. This seems really opaque. I'm not blaming the advisory board, but you're what we have and you're the cushion between us and the city. Except for Allie, who's always there. So I went to the What's Up Boulder deal about 2 weeks ago to find out what was happening. And I was directed to a woman and she showed me a bunch of charts. And I said, okay, well, I understand this, but this is a community asset. And I got to tell you, I'm there a lot. I suffered a traumatic head injury about 20 years ago. So I'm there a lot. And she said, well, I've never been there before. And I said, so you're making this decision on a facility where you've never been? I said, this is a community. This is where my friends are. This is where our children grow up. It's where our high school kids come. And she said, she got angry at me. She said, you're lucky you get to live in Boulder. And I said, so you don't live in Boulder? You've never been there and you're making this call? And I'm just like, so this is what we're looking at as a community. We've got bookkeepers, bureaucrats, accountants making financial decisions about something that shouldn't be financial. This is our community, guys. This is where our kids grow up. This is where we'll be when we're old. And it's not about money. We can get the money. You know you can get the money. City council's got to change some priorities. I think we know where their priorities now, but you have to push back as a department and as a board for us. And say, this isn't the right decision. It's not just about money, it's about people. It's about all of us together. If we need a bond issue, let's get a bond issue, but don't let them pile all that other stuff on it. Get us a good Parks and Rec bond issue. We couldn't pay for, we didn't have enough money for police or fire, they'd find it, you'd find it. So all I'm asking is, look at it from a community, not a dollars and cents. It's not about a balance sheet. It's about all of us. Thank you.
Do I have Shanta in the back? Okay, so she's online, no worries. I will call Will Iserman.
Hi, I'm Will Iserman. Thank you for all the work that you do on our behalf. I've been in similar boat before, and this is a thankless job in many ways. This is such an opportunity for the community to work with the city on a really exciting improvement of an asset. And I see the Boulder, South Boulder Rec Center as a critical hub. We had an experience with a critical hub when King Soopers closed for a year and a half. And there was almost an immediate dislocation of people where we felt homeless in a certain way. And the Boulder Rec Centers are like that for our neighborhoods. It's where we see our neighbors, where we get to know our neighbors and see their kids and build those relationships. And we want to have walkable assets like that, more of them, not less of them. And we certainly don't want the one we have moved across town. That's counter to really everything that I think we want to see in our community. But I have lots of ideas, but a couple of things that I want to share for just going forward. The first is about transparency. And there appears to be conclusions that have already been drawn about its unsustainability. It can't be renovated, can't be repaired. We need to see those data. They need to be accessible, easily accessible, so that we can understand how that conclusion was drawn. We need to also understand who is making the decisions and what decisions are like done deals. And what is still on the table so that we as community members can participate in those processes. The survey idea that you guys have going, great, but surveys usually come out of doing focus groups and team and town hall meetings. This survey is problematic in a lot of ways, and it's leading people to think there's a bias and an agenda. Lastly, I just want to say that our community, if this is a dying asset, then we need to respond as though it's dying and do something to bring it back to life. And we have a lot of people here with expertise and ideas and enthusiasm ready to put our heads together to solve this. So tell us how. How can we get engaged? We need to be educated by you. Thank you.
I want to ensure I don't have Bruce Price in the back. Does that make sense? Okay. Ted Connolly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ted Conley. I'm a 25-year user of the South Boulder Recreation Center. My comments are specifically regarding the statements about the future of the rec centers and the end of South Boulder Recreation Center's life cycle. So I'd like to first talk about some of the statements that were made around the funded East Boulder Community Center retrofit. I'm aware that the funding of the East Boulder Community Center came from the Community Culture and Safety Resilience Tax. And I was curious as to why these funds are not allocated to the current infrastructure of South Boulder Recreation Center, which received a failing letter grade. If this was a triage situation in an ER, you would immediately help to fix the failing rec center of South Boulder. Secondly, feedback and engagement. The future of Boulder Rec Centers, it was an opportunity to complete a survey on feedback. There are many flaws with the engagement survey. Number one, I attempted to complete the survey on my iPhone and couldn't select distributed model, and I have an exhibit here for you, Exhibit A. Other citizens had the same issue with the survey. You can see Exhibit B. Also, the surveys allow multiple attempts, meaning one user can complete the survey multiple times, which compromises the integrity of the survey. As we say in my world, garbage in, garbage out. The survey is leading. Question number 12 states with a centralized model, you can provide higher quality activities versus a distributed model, which would have basic activities. This nomenclature leads the citizens toward the centralized model. Isn't there a third alternative? What about a distributed model with higher quality activities? We've seen this firsthand. For example, South Boulder Rec Center has one of the best structured strength training programs, which matches programs at East and North. Finally, did you seek the input of citizens when crafting this survey? The fourth point is around the life cycle. Who determines that South Boulder Recreation Center has reached the end of its life cycle? Were these decisions made with citizen input? Did you rely on multiple firms to draw conclusions? And are the specific recommendations located on an accessible website for the public to review? So as a citizen concerned about the potential close of South without a viable replacement at the same location, it's important to have a very transparent process from the very beginning. This engagement survey seems to be the initial catalyst for having our voices heard. However, in my opinion, the data from the survey results will be inaccurate. In terms of next steps, if you could please provide your input on my 4 points. In addition, I would like to invite you, the PRAB board, to our Save South Boulder Recreation Center Coalition meetings to share a cup of coffee and have a form of mutual transparency and partnership to discuss, sorry, I'm over time, related to discuss a partnership related to this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Scott Graham. I live directly across the street from the South Boulder Rec Center. Closer than any single. And I wrote a bunch of stuff too. Most of it's already been said. That perspective though, living across the street is, I've been there for 17 years. I've raised my kids there. Unfortunately, my kids didn't really go to the South Boulder Rec Center very much because there were never any services provided there for them. There wasn't an easy entry swim pool when they were young, so we drove to the North Boulder Rec Center. And we drove there every Saturday and Sunday, and we waited in line to get into the North Boulder Rec Center because that's what every other family in Boulder was doing, was driving there. Because it's by far the best kid. It's way better than the East Boulder. It's by far. The other perspective is that my neighbor, Bruce Christ, who did not show up today, is somewhere like 87. He's on a walker. He lives directly across the street from me. He walks across the street, across Gillespie, every single day on his walker to go swimming. He goes and sits in the sauna, and he does that by himself. He is not allowed to drive anymore. He broke his hip 2 years ago. He has a helper that comes twice a week. He's not going to the East Boulder Rec Center ever. He's not going to go to a different rec center he's gonna die in his house. And he's gonna die early because he doesn't go across the street and swim. I see that happen on Berea all the time. I see all the people walking down and going across the street. It's like everybody said, it is a very central part of our community. And I really, really hope that it can become more rather than less. Because it doesn't fulfill the need of the community. There are 3,000 kids in that neighborhood going to school. At least. There's Mesa, Bear Creek, Community Montessori. There are preschools. There's Southern Hills, there's Fairview, there's Summit. They're all within walking and biking distance of that rec center. And the duration of the time my kids could go use it, there's nothing for them to go over there for. They have nothing to do. They rely on either the school providing something, or they have to walk or they have to just not do anything, go home and play video games. There's a lot of opportunity to improve it. And just because the kids haven't been going, or if which we don't have, this is another point, we don't have the data to see. But if the membership is declining there, or people aren't going, then let's build it up, because they're not going because there's not something for them to do, not because they don't want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Israelson?
Everything I was gonna say has already been said, so I did write it down to time it. I'm not the oldest one here, but I'm probably the only 50-year patron of the South Boulder Rec Center. My name is Mike Israelson. I am a 6th generation Coloradan and grew up on Emerson, just up the street from the rec center. My dad took me and my sisters to the rec center when we were kids, where I learned to swim, learned to play basketball, learned to play tennis. We would go to Veely Lake, not to mention Harlow Platts Park that you probably have heard a lot about anyway. My wife is also a South Boulder native. She was on the Fairview swim team when we were kids. She still has her sweatshirt. It says Chlorine, the breakfast of champions, because at the time we had to practice at 5 a.m. My grandma moved back to South Boulder when I was after raising kids. So we've now got 4 generations of my family using this rec center. Right now, my older son, Bryce, is at the South Boulder Rec Center every morning. And I don't know if there's other South Boulder people here. He's there every day lifting, and he's a competitive bodybuilder. And this has been a strong point in his life, giving him focus throughout high school. My younger son is on the Fairview tennis team. He has to play at South Boulder a lot, which also means he's doing battle with the pickleballers. Taking your survey that Ted talked about, I was struck, like many people here, it would seem like a foregone conclusion. There were very gray, unobjectionable terms like community and resource management that kind of told me that the mind has already been made up about the South Boulder Rec Center. And I was in high school when they opened East Boulder, and we were all pretty stoked on that. Like, oh, there's a climbing wall, there's turquoise, it's really cool. But we had to drive there. And from South Boulder, that's not really the coolest thing. North Boulder Rec Center, good for gymnastics, but it's in North Boulder, and that's dumb. What South Boulder Rec Center represents, like people have said, it's the heart of our community. We've got a really good grocery store. We've got the rec center. Many of our patrons run, bike, or walk there. The pickleballers show up every day and kick my kid off the tennis courts. Students walk by there every day. And the swim teams, you guys probably know this, but when they built Fairview, the school district did not give money to build a swimming pool because the South Boulder Rec Center was there. Has the building become obsolete? Certainly dated. It smells the same way it did when I was a kid. Should it go away? We got an architect talking about it. There's lots of alternatives, sort of in the parlance of our times. If you're going to build a dam, no one wants to build a dam where there's already a dam. We have a rec center, it's being used. We have a park that people love. Reimagine it, have a task force to figure that out. That's good. Thanks for your time.
Mary?
Hi, Mary Snevice.
Yeah.
I've used all of the rec centers for the past 22 years with my family. And I want to first just thank all of you for your service because been in similar shoes and I know it's a lot of work. So I have a couple things to address regarding the rec center. The first is that in May of 2023, I received the following email from a city staff member in response to my inquiry regarding the status of the rec center. And this was what I got. South Boulder Rec Center is an important part of our community. We have no plans to close it. The current building is approaching its end of operational life cycle, and the city is in the early stages of planning for the future of all three of our rec centers. Right now, we're exploring creative financial solutions to fund rec center renovations. Those results will determine the next steps and timing for future recreation center plans in 2024 and beyond. Today, as you all know, the current language regarding the rec center for South is that major repairs and renovations at South are neither feasible nor funded, and the future of rec center projects anticipates reductions in service levels at South, and will explore whether and how these services could be related east. There are a lot of things concerning about that language to me as a resident of that community. And my question is, when did this change occur? And who made the decision that South would not receive funding for repairs or renovations? Was that a city staff member that made, or group that made that decision? Was that city council that made that decision? When did it happen? Exactly. Like, there's no information that I've been able to find that I can explain the reassurances I got a year ago to where we are today. And I think a lot of us feel frustrated by that because you can read the website and read a lot of information and you can send a lot of emails, but you don't get specifics on that topic. Number two, I have 4 children who have graduated from or are currently in BVSD schools. They're all swimmers. And I'm very concerned about the possibility of losing the pool at South. When there's a usership agreement in place between the city and BVSD specifically for sharing these facilities. The Fairview swim teams have always used South for practices and meets, and I fear that there will be a failure of the pool for which a repair will not be funded by the city, causing a permanent closure of the pool. This will put a burden on those 40 to 70 kids and families trying to get to swim practice every single day from about November 1st through mid-May. During the most recent closure of the pool for leak repairs, which you guys already heard this, approximately 30% of the girls swim team had to quit because they were not able to find reliable transportation to the East or North Boulder Rec Center, or some days they didn't have any practice at all because my daughters were swimming then, because the schedule is very erratic during that time. This is inequitable for those 100+ athletes on these swim teams, many of whom do not have a driver's license and or do not have access to a car. And the city buses do not get them there in time for swim practice. So that was not an option. Those athletes are losing the opportunity to participate in a non-cut sport, which is shown to have positive physical and mental health benefits during a time when mental health among our teens is a major concern. In addition, the carbon emission impact from thousands of additional car trips, because I did the math, is contrary to Boulder's mission of reducing our carbon footprint. So there's no, and that's just the swim team. That's not talking about all of the users in the community. I would like assurances from the city that the pool will be kept open at least until the East Boulder Community Center is renovated and expanded, the pool there, that is, and there's a plan in place for rebuilding South. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I want to ensure I did not miss Mark America in the back and Brian Kennedy. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to move to online participation.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak who's here?
Yeah, I'd registered to speak, but I guess it didn't come through. Jeremy Nickel.
No, I do not.
Okay, well, is it okay?
Yeah.
Great. Reverend Jeremy Nickel, community minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I've only been here 5 years and I came from California, so you can just tune me out if you need to. I really do want to thank you all for being here. I've been on a lot of boards as a minister, and I know besides the great pay, it's tough work and often, like late nights and all the other stuff. I know you've thought about this for a long time. This isn't a new issue to you. I think, gosh, I've heard so many articulate words from my fellow community members that I don't want to waste your time and repeat all that. So I won't. I think what I want to say as someone who really focuses on community, and it is somewhat of a repeat, but it bears saying, we have so few spaces to be together anymore. Spent a bunch of time in Europe this summer, and I just saw how much architecture is destiny for a community, how much it affects the real lived experience of your community. And I look out at this group, I see these people regularly, like every day, this troublemaker right here won't leave me alone. It's a community over there. It's like my little Cheers, you know, and it really matters to a lot of people. It's one of those few places that you can just run into people and organically build relationships. So I'm not here to tell you like some fantastic fact about architecture you didn't know that saves the day, because I don't know anything about architecture. But I know that when a community cares about something, there is a solution. This is a great opportunity. You know, each one of us represents dozens of people who couldn't be here today. And so like there's a huge groundswell of support for this space living on. And so I just ask you to be creative and to include the voices here and feel this energy and work with us. Like, I guess we're probably all on the same team. Like, no one joins the Parks and Rec board to like close rec centers. So like, let's work together. You've been invited to join our crew. Join our crew. Get in the boat with us. Let's make this community better. This is an awesome opportunity for us to make the best South Boulder Rec Center we can have. So, you know, feel us and join us. You're invited.
Anybody else who's here who would like to speak? Let's move to online. Thank you, everybody, for sharing.
Don, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi, this is Don Burgle. Am I the right guy at the right time?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Hi, my name's Don Burgle, and I'm not going to talk about the South Boulder Rec Center. I'm the new president of the Boulder Tennis Association, taking over from Michael Shue, who many of you know, and I'm an avid recreational player here in Boulder. We're approaching the first winter in Boulder without a publicly accessible indoor tennis facility. And I'm speaking here to keep the need for an indoor tennis amenity on the top of the PrAP list. Many opportunities for the city to cooperate with private interests and create a community place for indoor tennis have been missed. The management of RMTC, which the city approved closing, proposed numerous times to build and manage a new facility with city help and was rejected. Unfortunately, I learned this last week that they've accepted an offer from the city of Firestone to cooperatively build a large regional tennis center there with support and assistance from that city. Sadly, our chance to keep that resource in Boulder is gone. The court system plan approved by PrAB in the city has an open-ended intention to build a public indoor facility at Valmont Park, but with no date assigned. And while the plan states an intent to increase the number of outdoor courts at East by 1 to 3 courts, there's no firm date on that either, and no details on whether tennis courts will still be available during the pickleball court conversion. I learned that the Parks and Rec Department is considering a greater expansion of East Rec Center tennis courts, potentially even indoor. I urge you now to act on this and move it forward expeditiously. We've missed opportunities in the past. Let's not let another one slip away. All the last 3 years have gotten Boulder tennis community is the city-sanctioned loss of 31 courts and a 200-page paper plan. Let's stop pushing paper and take some real action. The Boulder Tennis Association and the broader tennis community is here to support and potentially fundraise behind this effort. We just need the city as a good faith partner. Thank you.
Shanta, are you ready?
Thank you for letting me speak. So I really don't have very much more to add on the South Boulder Rec Center closure or potential closure to what some of my friends have added. So my wife and I have been using the South Boulder Rec Center from the early 90s. As for myself, I've been swimming regularly there whenever it has been open. And there are very few swimming facilities in Boulder, frankly. And when South Boulder was closed, we had to drive all the way to East. So and I'm sure I speak to the experiences of a lot of the swimmers in the community, that if this facility is closed, then we will have to drive several miles to get to another swimming facility. And that's going to add to the emissions that we all are trying to curb. So if that's one of the goals, then I would say that we really need to keep this community facility open. The other thing I want to add is that I do not understand how this lifetime of the building was derived, namely that the building's lifetime is 50 years. Well, many of the structures in South Boulder, including my house and my neighbors' houses, are greater than 50 years. So also, one of the posters says that the maintenance cost of SBRC is 3 times that of North Boulder Rec Center. Well, that's not surprising since North Boulder Rec Center was refurbished some, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So why can't we do that to the South Boulder Rec Center? So I really do not understand why it has been determined that the life of this rec center has ended or is potentially ending soon, and why it cannot be renovated. I do not see any data that is up on your website as to the justification for potentially closing this or building a new center when the old center is, as far as I can see, is perfectly fine and can be renovated. Thank you again for listening to me.
Yep.
Bruce Christ, I'm not seeing you. I'm going to move to Sherry Hack. Sherry, you may begin.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sherry Hack. I'm a 25-year resident of South Boulder, and I'm here tonight to ask you not to close the South Boulder Rec Center. It's a vital part of our neighborhood. I use it during my lunch hour sometimes for swimming, and I just walk there. And I want to thank you for fixing the pool and getting us lifeguards all day so the pool can remain open. Those of us in South Boulder do not want to have to drive to East Rec or North Rec centers. In fact, I have heard of stolen bikes and car break-ins at North. And also, that's the reason I don't want to go there. To be honest, I'll go to Louisville Rec Center before I go to East or North. Also, a lot of older folks can't ride bikes to East or North, and especially in the snow. And there's elderly people who can't drive, but who are able to walk to South Boulder Rec Center that won't be able to anymore if you close it. So for climate change, why would you force all of the South Boulder residents to drive to East or North? Doesn't make any sense. To me, the building seems just fine. Yeah, it's not real fancy, but I don't think we need anything fancy. It doesn't seem to be falling apart to me, but I mean, I'm not an engineer. If this is about money, why don't you stop some of the city projects like the conversion of Iris Avenue that most residents don't want, or the lawsuit against the Boulder Airport? The city seems to waste a lot of money on these certain pet projects. I also received an email, I guess it was in the last couple of years, assuring me that the South Boulder Rec Center wasn't going to be closed. So now what's changed? Today's my birthday, and I gave up a birthday celebration to be here for this meeting, to speak at this meeting. And the best birthday gift I could get is to know that my beloved South Boulder Rec Center will remain open and continue to be a vital part of our neighborhood. I have a few seconds remaining on a different topic. I'd like to ask a question. There was an encampment in the green space that's just east of the Table Mesa Park and Ride last year. It's by the Table Mesa exit off of Highway 36. There's a little creek and there was a grove of trees there. And I sent an email because I'm wondering, why were some of those big trees cut down there after the encampment was cleared? They were big, lovely trees, and now they're gone except for a couple of little trees. So that's a question that I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on Mark America. Mark, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, begin.
Great, thank you. Hello, my name is Mark America, and I'm here with my wife, Francia Nelson. We live in South Boulder, where we've been members of the South Boulder City Rec Center for 35 years. In fact, the way I became a member is that way back in 1988, as a new citizen of Boulder, I was walking down on the Pearl Street Mall when, to my surprise, someone from Boulder Parks and Rec came up to me and offered me a free 10-punch card to try out the rec center. And so I took advantage of that offer, and we've both been regular users of the South Boulder facility ever since. So talk about direct marketing, right? That was pretty good. We understand that this city evaluation, or some kind of evaluation, has already indicated that the rec center has reached the end of its life cycle, so-called. And that's not something we've personally felt working out in the gym, as others have said, or the gym, the stretch room, or even just taking classes. We actually find that part of the facility in great shape and have come to highly value the entire facility as an integral part of our community. Not only do we get to see and socialize with our neighbors, some of whom we see in your audience today, as you know, while we're working out, but it's very convenient for us to get to, and it's ideally located right next to Bailey Lake, as you all know, so that everything kind of feels part of the same community experience. And we like that we don't have to really leave a heavy carbon footprint driving around to other facilities, which we really don't want to have to do, or commercial gyms for that matter. And so we're 100% in favor of, I think what's being referred to, if I understand it correctly, this distributed model for future development of the recreational facilities in Boulder. A distributed model feels much more equitable to all of Boulder's citizens, especially the young and old community members in SOBO, such as us, who want to have easy access to our local facility. For us, the ideal plan going forward would be to renovate and create a first-class South Boulder Rec Center on the current site that equitably distributes the recreational opportunities for all of the neighborhoods in Boulder, and that prioritizes making a healthy lifestyle easy for all our communities to access and participate in. So thank you all for your service. Fran and I are both former City of Boulder employees and always appreciate those who contribute their time to making our city the best place that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on Brian Kennedy. Brian, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. My name is Brian Kennedy. I support the public comments we are hearing this evening. I will focus on 7 process recommendations with an emphasis on alternatives. First, make every background document and summary of public input to date easy to find online and available at the front desk for review, not just available upon request. Every front desk employee should be trained to be a process and project spokesperson. Do not predetermine the alternatives. While short-term changes may be unavoidable, they are often interpreted as long-term outcomes. Do not use cost as a driving factor that eliminates alternatives. Use community recreation needs as the driving factor for alternative development. Conceptually design a range of alternatives and schedule with sufficient information to generate meaningful public reactions to short-term, mid-term, and potential long-term outcomes. Design and administer a survey that generates public input on the range of alternatives under consideration, including but not limited to closing South Boulder Recreation Center, shifting facilities and services to east or elsewhere, and expending a lot of money to continue to provide existing facilities and services at South and possibly more facilities and services. Before administering that survey, fully characterize the alternatives and be especially clear about what centralization of facilities and services alternative would look like, and describe the impacts, implications of that alternative and the new precedent that sort of alternative would set. Centralization is a major policy change for the city that will generate substantial public reactions throughout the city. Finally, allow community members to refine the conceptual alternatives as part of live, on-site, indoor, and outdoor public participation events. Develop a facilitated sequence of themed events designed and targeted for residents and tailored to various age groups and activity types. This is how the future of this site should be imagined. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Christ, I am not finding you, and I apologize. I'm looking through the list. Do not see you, but you are welcome to send an email to prab@bouldercolorado.gov after the PRAB meeting tonight. Mr. Chair, that concludes my list.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you to everybody who made comments tonight, and thanks to everybody, especially who came in personally to spend time with us this evening. I'd like to open it up to PRAB first to make any comments or ask any questions related to what we've heard tonight.
Well, I just want to address you all. My name is Sunny Vanderstar, and I've lived in South Boulder for 25 years. And I am so heartened to see this response. I feel like I've been talking to a lot of folks, but nobody who's as organized as it sounds like you guys are. And I definitely want to know more about what is being organized there. You articulated so many things that I've been thinking and saying, and I just feel excited to know that there's so many resources out there, so many people who are willing to put their time and effort in and creativity. And I just feel really hopeful right now. I feel really excited about getting to know you all and really building our community beyond just the rec center stuff. I mean, I really, it makes me, just reminds me why I love South Boulder is that the people are amazing. And so thank you for showing up and articulating so clearly your thoughts and your love for this rec center and for your desire to have this be a hub, and more than it already is. I think we've been really patient and really trusting. And as a whole, it feels like we don't really care about fancy. Like we just want to have a place to go and be. And I think that's great. But now I think it is an opportunity for us to say, okay, let's think big. What do we really want? And the fact that the high school's there, the middle school there, all the other things that are so, close together, it's a campus, it's a hub. And I'm excited to talk to you more about your ideas and your vision. So thank you for showing up.
Thanks.
Bernie?
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Andrew Bernstein. I'm a member of the PRAB. I live in South Boulder. I live on Greenbrier. I use the South Boulder Rec mostly in the wintertime, I'll admit. I'm not really someone who likes to exercise indoors when the weather's beautiful. That's just me. But I love riding my bike over there, or sometimes even walking. It's a very short walk for me. And I appreciate everyone's time to come here to tell us about your concerns and what you love about the facility and what it means to the community. And I want you all to know that I share your feelings on all of that. However, I want to say that I don't think it's that great of a building. I spent some time in a wheelchair a number of years ago, and I tried to use that facility, and the elevator sucks, the entrance to the pool sucks, the locker room sucks, the bathroom suck. We can go in there and we can, like, the roof doesn't leak and the windows are intact, and we can all say like, well, the building's in fine shape. But, like, I'm not an engineer, maybe some of you are, but the city's done a lot of work to evaluate the building, understand the state that it's in. And I think that we all need to be eyes open to the fact that we're actually not being that well served by our building. It may mean a lot to us because we've been going there a long time. I haven't lived in Boulder that long. I have to tell you guys, I've only been here like 6 years. I love it though, and that's why I'm volunteering tonight. This is what I would like to ask all of you. What's going to be required is a significant bond and tax. And I'm very excited that all of you are ready to advocate for that and to go to your neighbors and the rest of the city and say, like, South Boulder deserves a better facility. Mr. Bergel, we also deserve a tennis facility. That requires money, and that requires all of you to go to all of your neighbors and the rest of the city and say, support this bond issue when the city brings it. And I own property in South Boulder. I'm going to pay a lot more taxes, and that's okay with me because I believe that we need recreation. And I hope that you all agree. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Jenny, did you want to add anything?
Sure. I will just say that thank you to everyone for attending tonight and making your thoughts clear and your requests clear. I think sometimes when we have public participation, people don't always come with maybe thoughtful solutions, which I think was on the table tonight by a lot of you, and I think that's really important. I think the community activism is key. I love that you have a group called Save South Boulder Rec, and I would like to come and have coffee and listen to some more ideas as to what we can do to rebuild or save this facility, depending on how we go. My daughter goes to Fairview. I love that she has that resource right there, and I also don't want to lose it in any capacity. So again, thank you very much for all of your participation. I look forward to meeting you all in person, or as many of you as I can in person, to discuss this issue. And I'm interested to hear, I'm not sure if the city will be responding, if the Parks Department will be responding to any of the anything we heard tonight, but I'm interested to kind of hear where they stand after tonight's conversation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, and also what has been said by the board members, that we really appreciate you coming. And we are listening to you and have considered all of the things that you had to say. I know that staff feel the same way. I would like to continue the engagement as much as possible. And I heard from, I think it's Ted, about a group that meets related to this, Save South Boulder Rec. You know, I'd love to, you should email the PRAB and let us know when those copies are, when you're doing a meeting, because I know that multiple members would be interested in engaging in that way. So thank you for that offer. I heard a couple of themes tonight that I'd like to just crystallize for those who are listening. It seems to me like this is a real important community asset. And as a resident of South Boulder, I agree with that 100%. Seems like there were some issues with the survey, with how it was worded. And Also, some issues with the projected climate impact and traffic impact of routing our rec center to east versus having the model where we have 3 rec centers, 1 in south. We need more transparency about how the decisions are being made. And we need to determine kind of more clearly how the determination was made about how this building has reached the end of its life cycle and what the alternatives are. So thank you again for raising all of those issues. And I want to make sure that we open it up to staff as well to make any comments that they would like in response to what they heard.
I think Scott was going to share some.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Schuttenberg. I'm the Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation, and I'm excited that you're all here today. I actually also grew up in South Boulder on Kenyon Circle, went to Southern Hills, went to Fairview High School, grew up in the South Boulder Rec Center. And so I understand why you're passionate about that space and what it means to the community firsthand. And I will say that it's exciting that you have so many passionate individuals here that are dedicated to making sure the recreation needs of our community are met, especially in the South Boulder area. What I will say is, in representing all of our staff here, we're all passionate about recreation. We understand the social impacts of recreation. I heard it called a critical hub tonight, which I really truly appreciate. We see that, we know that, and we know the importance of recreation. That's why we're all in this industry. That's why we got into the field. I will say we are committed to being transparent and we're asking for feedback now. And my hope would be that we can get that feedback and gather the information, have more focus groups and more opportunities to speak to each and every one of you. And I did want to mention that back in 2022, there was a BPR plan that was put together looking at our future. And at that time, we looked at all 3 rec centers. And being in a fiscally constrained environment, if you've listened to city council meetings, you've heard the term fiscally constrained. Right now, there's just not enough money to replace that building. That's where you all come in. And I think there is that opportunity to create that vision and then find the funding to make it happen. We would love nothing more than to see that happen, but it's going to take each of you and your neighbors, your friends, and everyone else to be involved in that process. So I don't want to talk too much. I don't know, Megan, if you have anything you want to share. Megan is our Senior Manager and oversees recreation for the city. So
yeah, I know many of you, some faces are new. It's really good to see those I know again and meet some of you that I maybe haven't gotten to before in person. But I mean, I think what Scott said about like, we're all here because we care about this. We get to serve our community here in Boulder. We get to be at the South Boulder Rec Center and talk with people today, right? And help answer those questions. And I think we're really excited about what the future can look like. And right now, there's just opportunity in the future, right? And so, but there's a lot of process before we can get there. And I think like keep filling out the surveys. Yes, they're not perfect. We're in the early stages. We want to hear from you. We want to know what should be there. And we want to address the parts of the building that don't work. There are parts of that building that don't work, right? And so I know I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get to learn from more of the community through our community engagements. And the more that we can funnel like all the information that you have to share into actual data that we can use to inform what's in that park next, the better it's going to turn out to be. So I know we're excited, and also it's a lot of work to get there. So.
I'll add just one note about the route forward. So you all are hearing about the future of the Recreation Centers project. And the intent of that is to learn from the community. What do you want in the system? Last year, we did the big broad engagement and that's summarized online. And we heard loud and clear, we know South is important. And now there's this question around what types of amenities, how many and where. But to the point around what you all can do now, I just want to be clear, City Council has lifted up a long-term financial strategy for the city in their 2-year work plan. So are any of you council wonks? So no, okay, that's great. I'll tell you a little more, but just so in their 2-year work plan, they are working with the finance department and the city to look at service levels across the city, to look at fees across the city, and to look at funding strategies to inform a 2-year ballot strategy. There may be measures in 25, there may be measures in 25 and 26. And so when Scott says you all can go out and do stuff, your best method right now to engage is to stay engaged in this project and listen for those opportunities to engage on the long-term financial strategy. Because if and when something is going to be put on the ballot, most often there is some kind of a community group that helps figures out, you know, we as staff are going to throw everything on the kitchen sink that the community wants. The list is big. And we know we have to take care of things across the system. So the community helps prioritize that when there's a ballot initiative. And then once something's on the ballot, we don't get to advocate for it, right? Like there's a line we can't cross. We can share facts and information, but that's where we really need community groups. So I just want to clarify, we don't need you out in the streets tomorrow, like rallying the troops. That would be too soon. We don't have the data. We don't have the cost estimating, but it's coming.
So Ally, how are we supposed to get in these community groups? Because I'm relatively well engaged, and it seems like the city council gets people that are around them, and I don't know what that particular group is, but they're always in these communities.
So so why don't, if you've got, let me follow up with you about that by email, and we can send out information to you about how to get involved. But I appreciate your question. Yeah, it's a good question.
And we,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we need to get on to the meeting, but I documented several areas where we're ongoing improving that FAQ page to try and, I joked, we need to add a little more and make sure it's plain speak and make sure we have the information you need. We are not trying to be vague. We are not trying to obfuscate. There is a lot of information. It's buried in jargony and technical reports. We can try and translate that. The other thing I'll just know is it feels vague because it's unknown, right? We're on this journey to find out what does the community want? And then we'll do cost estimating and then we'll ask you, are you willing to pay? So right now the future is unknown, but we're on a journey to figure it out.
And I'll just say too, my seat will be up at the end of this year, and there's 2 other seats on the PRAB board. And this is the reason why I got on the PRAB board 3 years ago. So if there are other people out there who would be willing to dedicate their time for a few years to work on this project, there will be opportunities.
Good point.
I thought of a few more things that don't work about the building. Should I list them or?
We share them in an email. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. We are going to get on with the rest of our meeting. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, so the next item is the consent agenda. And as a reminder to the members of PRAB, the consent agenda includes approval of the minutes from August 26, 2024, and updates from the Director of Parks and Recreation. So I'll take a motion to approve and then a second, and then I'll ask for any discussion, and then we'll go from there. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll give Sunny this time because you did the last one. You second. Great. Any discussion on the consent agenda items, including the minutes or the updates from the director?
I just want to say, Jenny and I are meeting with Ally, I think Friday. Friday, yeah, to talk about our study session, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. I think we got a pretty clear direction on that from you all at our last meeting. We're going to finalize those items on Friday.
Oh, great. I just wanted to say that it seems like you guys are making a lot of progress on the CAPRA accreditation, which is exciting. So congrats on that. And that's it for me. Jenny, do you have anything you want to add? Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda is passed. All right, next item is our action item. Hand it over to Ally for that.
Yeah, and so joining us at the table for this, I'm really excited. So the City of Boulder has in-house legal counsel, which is really great. There are some cities who their counsel is at a firm, it's billable, it's expensive, it's It's challenging. We have an incredible in-house attorney team. Andy Frohart here is our lawyer. And so we get to email him or call him whenever we want. And it's amazing to have an attorney on your side. So he's joining on this. He's been with Regina on this project all the way. You all asked some questions last month that were a little bit out of our wheelhouse, and we asked our attorney if he would join us at the table. So in your materials for tonight, you'll see that they've already answered a lot of those great questions. I appreciated Jenny giving us some time last week. So we had a one-on-one with her to talk about some of her specific questions. And with that, I'll hand it over to Regina and Andy. And I see Aaron has joined us at the table too, our lead ranger, Aaron. Wow, I'm up on the list. Queuing up.
It's gonna be a rotation here. Well, thank you all again for this evening. I'll try and be relatively quick to this presentation for us this evening. We're here for action related to the Wonderland Lake encroachments. I will go very briefly through the project background and process, go through the remedy alternatives, try and answer some of your questions, and then go through the rest of the next steps. This is just, there's a lot of text on this slide, but this is just to kind of tee up. Again, to remind you, CRAB's purview under these two items is first under BRC 2-3-10, D1 is to approve or disapprove proposals concerning the disposal of park lands and forward such recommendations to the city council. So that is one item that we're talking a little bit about tonight. The second is under BRC 2-3-10D3, which is to make recommendations to the council concerning the grant or denial of any license or permit on park lands. So that's really the two roles that for you here this evening. We've got the suggested motion language. It was also included in your packet. I've got it on a slide later in the PowerPoint, so you don't have to memorize this, hopefully, if we've answered all of your questions. But just so you know, basically the first motion is to delegate your authority to the city manager to finalize the revocable license agreements. The second is a motion to approve the revocable easement agreements as part of that disposal process. And just to clarify, it is not a full disposal, it's a partial disposal of some of our property rights related to several of those revocable easement agreements. Really quickly, again, going through that project timeline, we started back in January of 2023 with a surveyor to identify the encroachments across the Wonderland Lake Park area. We did send communications to all the adjacent neighbors at that time, just to let them know what's going on with the project. And we started initial outreach with the property owners since about a year ago, so September of last year. And I've had basically ongoing communications with both individual property owners, HOAs, groups of property owners, basically since that time to get us to where we are today. Again, just an overview of the project area. We evaluated all of these red lines, which are areas where we have private property directly adjacent to the Wonderland Lake Park area. So this is throughout the area. We've got about 10,000 linear feet of property evaluated, approximately 200 private property neighbors, and 52 different encroachments across that area, varying in size and scope. This is just kind of an overview summary of the different remedy alternatives. In our meeting in July, we talked about these 4 different type remedy alternatives. One, basically, it's the city asserting ownership, which is for those encroachments that are very small, minor landscaping, boulders and things like that. And so working through those just to work with that property owner to establish that ownership. The second is removal. Those are sort of less permanent encroachments, private property storage, things like that. We have a total of 19 of those. 7 have been fully resolved. 7 are in some sort of state of resolution, and then we have 5 that are still pending. The 2 that I've highlighted here that we're really talking about this evening that CRAB is taking action on are the revocable license agreements. Again, we proposed 18 of those. Of those 18, 3 have elected already to resolve those without needing to enter into an agreement with the city. 2 additional are looking to be resolved within less than a year, so they're looking to actually remove that encroachment. And then 13 are those ones pending perhaps approval. And then the final is the revocable easement agreement. There are 5 encroachments that fall into this category. It results in actually 7 agreements with 7 different property owners because we have 2 of these encroachments have 2 adjacent properties. It sort of straddles the line between 2 adjacent properties. So 5 of those are pending your action today, and we are still in negotiation on 2 of those agreements. One of the questions that you all asked in your July meeting was really, what are the differences between the revocable license agreement and the revocable easement agreement? And what was sort of that choice in that line between when we chose one versus the other? And so there's some kind of key characteristics here. A revocable license agreement are really those sort of permanent improvements, things like fences. Whereas a revocable easement agreement kind of had at least one of these 3 characteristics related to the structural integrity of the private property, that they were a result of the original construction, and that removal of that would likely pose some sort of a risk to that private property. The revocable license agreement were also, as I mentioned, these are semi-permanent improvements. They couldn't predate the current ownership, but removal of these encroachments is entirely possible because they are not structural. The revocable license agreements were written such that they would allow that private property owner the time to both plan for and budget for moving that encroachment, especially in those cases where it predated their ownership. We felt that that was a reasonable alternative. For a lot of these folks, they purchased the properties as they are today, and assuming that was on the correct line. The sort of the big kind of characteristics between a license agreement and the easement agreement. The license agreements cannot be transferred, and they do have an end date. While it's not a defined end date, it does have an end date. Whereas the revocable easement agreement can be transferred, to successors, which means that on transfer of the property, it can be transferred to the successor of that agreement or that successor of that property. So there's also no defined end date there. So here I just wanted to show you again a few examples of those revocable license agreements. Like I said, things like fences being offline, minor retaining walls that are placed just too far onto the public property, and really fence lines that are just not on the correct property line. Versus here are some of the examples of that revocable easement agreement. You can see a couple of these are retaining walls. One is, it's very clearly that retaining wall was built to allow for the buildable space of that private property. The ones in the center are the easement agreement related to a retaining wall that is supporting 2 public trees that are in our public tree inventory. You can see they are so close to that retaining wall that if that retaining wall were to be taken out, it would severely impact the health of those public trees. And then that third one, you can see again, it's a retaining wall that splits the difference between those 2 properties. And it goes back beyond onto the private property and is actually tied into the structure of those 2 homes. So that kind of gives you an idea of that sort of structure across what those 2 different agreements are covering. Some of the additional feedback that we had was related to liability, and sort of the city's liabilities are related to these agreements. Just a couple of quick notes. These agreements actually transfer the liability to the grantee. So that is sort of the intention, so that they are responsible for those improvements. And the revocable license agreements in particular have insurance requirements that are similar to all of the insurance requirements in all of our contracts for being able to do work on city land. So it does have insurance requirements. There were some questions about why wouldn't we just sell the city property to address these? That's really, at the end of the day, from a citywide perspective, that's a really unfavorable option. Simply because once that city property is sold, it cannot be regained. There's no way for us to get that back if in the future, these are revocable easement agreements. So if in the future something happened and that easement or that encroachment could be removed, that underlying ownership still stays with the city. If we were to sell the property, that wouldn't be true. And so that's kind of what I mean when I'm saying it creates an unsustainable and undesirable precedent that if these things are occurring on city property anywhere, maybe not just parks and rec land, but utilities, open space, it could create a precedent that the city would just sell property. And then the final idea there is that these lands were dedicated as part of that subdivision with the intent that they are there to be of value to the public, to provide public benefit. If we were to sell that property, it does not meet that intent of that original dedication. And then thirdly, there were a number of questions around precedent. And what does this approach really do? And what kind of a precedent does this project and this approach create? So one thing, what we wanted to clarify is that, if in the future we discover an encroachment that is currently under construction or is newly constructed and it's sort of a one-off encroachment, I don't believe that this approach is the way that we would go about it. I think we would look to enforcement and to really assert our property rights at the upfront. I think one of the differences with this project is that these encroachments have, in some cases, been there since the original construction back in the 1970s. So we're talking about decades and decades of sort of precedent or existence there. Also, the scope of the Wonderland encroachments, so there were so many of them spread across this entire property, really necessitated sort of a holistic and transparent approach to how we wanted to evaluate these. Again, I don't know, I can't say with any certainty, but I don't know that there's another property that would have quite this many encroachments. I would hope not, because most of our parks are developed and it would be a lot easier for us to tell if somebody is extending a garden into a sports field or a baseball diamond. So Wonderland Lake is really a very unique situation and a very unique area for us in that these are a lot of natural areas that are more for passive recreation and native habitat and things like that. And so we are using Wonderland as a pilot to identify, are there pieces of this approach that work, that don't work? What are our lessons learned? How would we do this differently in the past? So Wonderland really is a pilot for that to also help us to understand how we might do things a little bit differently, potentially in the future as well. So again, sort of quickly wrapping up, what are our next steps? We obviously had discussion with CRAB in July. We're here tonight for action. In the October, November timeframe, we do have planning board consideration and require city council action on both of these items. I am working right now on developing a sort of standard operating procedure for parks defense against encroachments to kind of outline again, what have we learned? What of these pieces of this approach would we want to continue into the future? And then to be able to share that with other departments that also are land managers, whether that's open space and mountain parks, utilities, greenways, and others, so that we can have a slightly more uniform and holistic approach to encroachments across the city. So I'm working on that right now and should hope to have that done by end of the year. So with that, I want to open it up if there are any additional questions. I know I kind of sped through that, but I want to make sure that we get we have a few other folks here this evening as well, so.
Thanks, Regina. That was really helpful. I'm just wondering how is it going with the neighbors who are active?
So I think I've shared.
Please.
So we have 52 different private property owners that I've been in contact with. And I would say that we've had probably about 52 different reactions. So, and it really sort of depends. Some folks are very open, wanting to work with the city. Again, a lot of folks have, I didn't realize this was the way that it was, and absolutely, yes, we need to put it on our property line, and very open to working with it. And other folks are just simply, they've invested a lot of time and resources and into these pieces of property, whether knowingly or not, that isn't theirs. And so there's a lot of emotion invested in some of that. And so really trying to be very empathetic in all of these conversations, understanding that, again, not assuming any ill intent or negative intent on anyone's behalf, but really just trying to protect the public property and the property rights for the city. So like I said, it really spans.
And what's been like a particular thorn in your side?
There have been several, and they continue to be. That's, why they're in that kind of summary, there are multiple that are still sort of pending in that sort of just trying to continue to have ongoing conversations with folks, trying to bring them along into that conversation and some of those
And I noticed there is an October 1st deadline. Like, what happens if these aren't resolved then?
So we are actually meeting, I think it got pushed not to the next week or early the week after that, to talk about what are our next steps beyond that deadline. Reality is a number of folks that have that deadline have reached out to me. You can see in that table, a lot of folks have already resolved their issues. Some folks, it's a matter of, great, you've taken it off, let's, throw down some native seed, here's some recommendations. So we don't just have a mud pit on the city property. So how is that restoration happening? So we actually have made a lot of progress. And I think each one of the ones that are sort of remaining and pending, it's going to be we might have a different answer for what those next steps are going to be with them.
Okay.
See Jenny's hand up as well.
Jenny?
I think you may have just answered. I was just wondering what would happen if you don't come to terms on one or two of these. But I think you just kind of said you're not.
Yeah, for the agreements in particular, we, most folks, I have written confirmation that folks are amenable to the terms of these agreements. For, I would say, a vast majority of all of these agreements. So I would say it's less than a handful where there's still sort of ongoing negotiations with folks.
Okay.
Sunny? Questions? I had a couple of questions. First of all, thanks for the work on this. I mean, it sounds like a really intricate initiative, so thanks for that. I'm curious about, how do you guys draw the line between removal and we're going to give you a license agreement?
No, that's a great question. So,
And can I clarify something on the license agreement term? So the term actually doesn't, it ends upon sale of the property. And so one of the obligations within this, I think maybe this is what you're getting at, but that when the term ends, they have an obligation to remove it, or we have the right to remove it at the subsequent landowner's cost or at their cost. I think there's some complexity with that, but there is an end term. So it is an exchange of essentially, and I say this because you're an attorney, Elliot, but we could have gone in and just forcibly removed. There's a self-help right, I think, that the city probably could have exercised.
I don't know how that would have gone with a lot of the landowners. And there's also a citation option where if it's an encroachment on public property, there's a trespass option. There's an option to go get a court order, which would mean serving the landowners separately and just bringing them to court. And so when Regina came to me with this, it was kind of an approach of what's the most reasonable thing we can do that's trying to work with them and accommodate this. And so that's where kind of the revocable license versus the easement distinction came up. Is there's some which obviously need to carry with the land because they're going to need to continue with the land, excuse me, because there's structural issues that that could create problems for any landowner. But the revocable license agreements are personal to the owners of the property. And so the idea is if there's the conundrum we ran into is if there's persons with fixed income that can't, remediate something that's potentially expensive, for instance, and maybe it's been there for a long time. We're basically saying, great, but we'll allow it to exist, but you'll need to indemnify us. You'll need to agree to its removal. There's some other terms that we include in these, but it's essentially giving them an option to let it persist until they sell the property, at which point somebody needs to have the funds to remove it and take care of it. So that's kind of just a clarifying point on that. Yeah.
So the idea behind the license agreements, what you're saying is that eventually this will be removed.
Yeah.
If it's not right now.
Right.
Correct.
And my question is, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
My immediate question is, what kind of thinking or factors did you employ right now to determine whether you were going to tell somebody, get rid of this, or move your fence, and we will delay this inevitable through a license agreement? And that background is helpful in helping understand, in addressing what I'm ultimately asking. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, so and I can absolutely answer that question too. We'd have to go back, and I don't have the exact text in front of me, but in your July packet, I provided sort of the criteria. There was a set of 8 questions that we evaluated each of these encroachments against. And it created almost like if you imagine, it's a Plinko board. So if yes, if no, and then kind
It's
of.
not Plinko, because Plinko's named them. It's like a decision tree. Yeah, it's a very thoughtful decision tree.
But a decision tree that if it's, as we went through those questions, it helped us evaluate and kind of land in which bucket it was in. And so kind of making that distinction between which of those would we allow to persist versus which ones we asked to remove as part of this. It really came down to the permanence or the semi-permanence or impermanence of the whatever it was, as well as we did take into account sort of a broad spectrum of what would be the burden to remove, the financial burden to remove said encroachment. So if it was something that is simply, some landscaping rocks or a garden bed or, a few personal, bird feeders and things like that, those fell into that, we have that removed. If there was a more significant financial burden into, multiple thousands of dollars into tens of thousands of dollars, that's kind of started to fall into that license agreement where we would allow that. And really, at the end of the day, I think all but maybe one of the revocable license agreements are related to offline fences. And so it's really the fence line.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So you made an individualized assessment based on a set of criteria that you had. Makes sense. And I'm just curious about just the kind of legal structure of what you're asking us to do here. So you're asking us to, the license agreement is not a disposal of property. So we don't have to approve those agreements, but you're saying, you're asking us to delegate our authority to finalize the terms of them to the city manager, given the number of agreements?
Yeah, so I've got the motion language up here, and so I can kind of talk through that a little bit. The first motion is because the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, per that BRC code I cited before, you do have authority to grant licenses on parks property.
Okay.
So that is, and so what we are asking for there is, because we do have a few of those sort of outstanding revocable licenses that I'm trying to kind of get finalized and get pushed kind of across that finish line. You've seen the terms of that agreement, and the basic terms of that agreement are the same for all 13 of those agreements. There are a few minor changes from each one, and they're individualized for what is it a metal fence or is it a wood fence? Is it, there's some landscaping that needs to be addressed, or, things like that. So there's some minor changes for each one of those. And so this first one is, because you've seen the template that we are using for all of those, do you approve that? Basically, do you approve that template for us to continue to finish and finalize and get all of these sort of big group of 13 of them across?
Like the administrative function of finalizing
Yeah.
the contract.
Yeah.
But we're not, are we telling the city manager's office, you should approve these? We're just giving you the final say on what they contain, or are we saying we're delegating our authority to approve or deny these contracts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were bringing these to get, so I think this is there's some gray area in terms of, it's not a true disposition, like you said. So, but there is a use of private, or there is a use of the Parks and Rec property that could be substantial in length. So I had kind of thought at least you would be seeing the.
We do have the agreements. I'm just saying, I'm asking, are in approving, let's say we have this motion and we say yes. Are we delegating to the city manager, like, you have the authority to approve or deny, and we're just giving you the authority to enter into the contracts or not? Or are we saying, we want you to approve these, you just finalize them? There's a difference between those two.
So at the end of the day, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, what I understand this delegation to be is the city manager can finalize the agreements, finalize the terms. At the end of the day, city council still has to approve them. Like, the city manager is not, you don't have the authority to delegate that final approval because it exceeds the 3 years of PRAB's authority. That still has to go to city council. So all we are doing at this point in time is asking for that authority and the approval that, based on the terms that we have, you've seen the kind of template of terms, to finalize all of these agreements to be able to provide them to city council for that final approval. That you don't need to or want to see all 13 of them in their entirety every single term. That would be.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the administrative burden that this makes total sense. I'm still a little unclear about what our authority is and what we're giving to the city manager's office. Just to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Like, and I don't want this to hold up the vote, but like, if we have the authority to approve licenses, then we theoretically have the authority to grant these licenses. And so if we're giving the city manager that authority, we're telling the city manager, approve it, or we're saying to the city manager, go ahead and make the decision as to whether to approve. But you're telling me that city council ultimately has to approve it anyway. So I'm kind of wondering, like, what role are we playing here? Does that make sense? Does my question make sense?
So you have the authority to approve up to 3 years, these licenses. Beyond that, it's a recommendation that's made to city council that city council ultimately has authority over. So some of these will probably not exceed 3 years. There's, I don't know how many that will be sold within the year, or will have some sort of reconstruction done, or will the landowners just voluntarily resolve it next time they redo their fence or whatever. But you'll be making a recommendation of it to city council for approval. So
understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
sorry for that.
I just want to make sure I understand what we're actually
Yeah.
legally doing, so.
And I think that we can, if you would like to make that clearer in the motion language, we can always entertain, this is just suggested motion language. So we can always entertain edits to that. And Jenny, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, Jenny, did you?
Yeah, just to add on that a little bit, like what happens if we don't do this? What do we have to do? What if we say, we're not gonna make that motion? What would our role be then?
I think, well, you're saying you'd still want to be, you'd want to, like, basically, I think you're saying you'd want to approve each of them that come through.
So is that, I mean, that's what I'm asking. So that would be what it is. So every time you come to terms and then it would come to us and we would say, this looks good, but so we're not negotiating. That's the job of the attorney. We're just.
Yeah, the city attorney's office will negotiate the agreements, but there's still, you know, at least a limited for most of these.
So are we sub-delegating because some of them are over 3 years and some of them are not going to be over 3 years, or are we sub-delegating because there's just a lot of them?
I'm happy to take that and just say, this is a simplicity thing. A lot of these are very benign and we're trying to eliminate bureaucracy and process. And so
Yeah, I
it's
mean-
not trying to buy skirt, it's that we see it as if you had the ability to approve things on consent agenda the way council does, you could do it in that measure. But it really is just you all have walked through this journey with us. You've talked about the criteria used for the decision making. And so in theory and in blessing this approach tonight, we're going to continue that approach. It's still going to have to go through some public process, but we've cut a little red tape.
And that's keeping in mind, this is the pilot sort of it, and there could be a lot of these at some point. We don't know what this is gonna look like for other areas.
Yeah. So an example, there are a lot of revocable licenses on the Pearl Street Mall before the patios and awnings that extend onto city property. They're doing 1-year licenses to avoid all the red tape and process, and we're trying to find some better ways that limit paper.
Got it.
We could just do 1-year agreements with these people. We think that's silly.
Right, a 1 year that keeps renewing and renewing and renewing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for addressing those questions. Jenny, do you have any other questions or?
I'll lower my hand.
Okay.
And this is I'm sorry, I guess one more thing. This motion is just for these agreements, not for all revocable license agreements.
Correct.
Yes.
These are just for the Wonderland Lake revocable license agreements.
Maybe that can be clarified also. But I don't know, I'm just looking at it to see. Yeah. Just maybe a little clarification with it just being Wonderland Lake, I guess, for my purposes, but that's an easy fix.
Yep. All right. I'll add that to the end.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have 2 motions, right? Did we wanna, does anybody have any questions related to, because this is different. This is the revocable easement stuff. We are actually approving these. So any questions on that? Okay. I'll make the motion on the first one, just because I'm adding the language at the end. So I move. I move to have the BRAB sub-delegate our authority to finalize the terms and approve the revocable license agreements to the city manager due to the volume of agreements under consideration regarding Wonderland Lake. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. And any further discussion on this?
Do you have
Okay.
to say that last line, final approval of the revocable license agreements will remain with city council?
I did not. Oh, I didn't realize that was part of the, yeah. Final approval of the revocable license agreements remains with city council. Thank you, Jenny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Bernie, any further discussion on this? Questions? Okay, alpha order roll call, please, Rosa?
So actually, Mr. Chair, because this is not a grant or denial, we don't need a roll call vote.
Okay,
Yeah, it can just be a regular aye or nay.
okay, great.
Mhm.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes 4-0. And who would like to motion the second thing we have to do? Sunny, you want to go for it?
All right. I motion to approve revocable easement agreements between the city of Boulder and the owners of the following Wonderland area properties and authorize the city manager to make minor amendments during the term of the agreements in order to ensure that City Parks property is managed in a manner that is consistent with City of Boulder applicable laws, policies, and regulations. 3824 Orion Court, 3851 Orion Court, 3920 Newport Lane, 3934 Promontory Court, and 3926 Promontory.
Second. Any discussion? And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes 4-0. You guys have what you need.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Thanks for answering our questions.
Thank you all for engaging in it so thoughtfully. It is something that we hope makes this a lot easier moving forward, and you all asked a lot of really thoughtful questions that I think made it better. Thank you. And thank you to Andy for his expertise.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.
Okay,
Any chance we can 5-minute recess?
yes, we can. 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
These many favorite part. We introduced Erin Morrell earlier, and I just want to celebrate. So in 2021, we were having a conversation with council and the community about how could we make our public spaces both welcoming for all and safe for all. And we introduced a spectrum of programs that included the ambassadors you see all over the downtown area. And they included an urban ranger program, which had not existed in BPR since 2012. It had faded out with some retirements and amidst the recession. So we said, okay, we're going to start a program. And then after months went by, we realized we really need to hire someone to stand this program up, and we need to hire a ranger supervisor. And Erin was the first hire in this program. And I am so grateful that she is the person that we put in this job, because she has been incredible at building a team, protocol, training materials, standards, procedures. Like you don't just snap your fingers and have an urban ranger program. And Erin, who we get to hear from tonight, has been an incredible teammate. Thank you.
All right, well, first I want to address the things that are in front of you. If you want to color along, I know my team all has ADHD a little bit, so we have meetings, they all have stuff to do in front of them. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about that project as we get into our presentation today. So yes, I am Erin Morrell. I have been our Urban Ranger Supervisor for a little over 2 years now. Started in May of 22. And I've met, I think, a few of you either out in the parks, at our events, or at last year's presentation. So up on the screen, you'll also see from left to right, well, first me, and then Alec Moore, Sam Jeffers, Jasmine Zaldivar, Jesse Yalberton, and Kyle Harris. Obviously, I can't be a lone ranger all by myself, and I really want to appreciate the team that I currently have. They're amazing, and I love working with them, and I'm happy to have them here in Boulder, especially at Parks and Rec. So right now, our staffing has 3 standard full-time rangers. Those are the 3 you see on the left there. And then we have 3 temporary ranger crew members. So those temporary ranger crew members work 9 months out of the year. And this same staffing model is in the 2025 recommended budget.
It has grown over the last few years. We started with just 3 full-time rangers and 1 seasonal. Last year we had 2 seasonal rangers for only 6 months of the year. And then this year we have 3 of those temporary rangers, thanks in part to, extended budgets. Our operating hours are from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., 7 days a week. Rain, shine, snow, -10-degree weather, all that kind of stuff. You can find us out in the parks, in the rec centers, at the Boulder Reservoir, and many of our facilities. We have 86 properties, so it's a lot to get to, that's for sure. But 6 rangers, it's feeling pretty good, so, yeah. And so where do urban rangers fall on the enforcement scale? We are in the middle there under limited commission. And on the left, we have ambassadors and other education type folks out there in our community who, provide education to visitors, maintenance, and information. And then urban rangers, we do more of that code enforcement and make sure that people are being safe in our parks and enjoying them. And really focusing on avoiding the need for more law enforcement officers in these situations. So taking a lot off of the police department, animal protection, who else? OSMP, CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife's plate. And then we have our Boulder Police Department partners who we work with very closely and, couldn't do it without their support too. Because we come across situations that we definitely need their support. All right, so I was talking about patrolling and how we have 86 properties. As you can see on this map, and the cluster of dots, each dot is an entry into our data collection. So every time we go to patrol at a park, a new dot gets created. So that's really hard. 53% of our time in 2023 was spent in the downtown corridor. So Boulder Creek, Pearl Street Mall, Scott Carpenter, Columbia Cemetery, even like that downtown University Hill area where most of our people like to hang out too. As Ali, I'm sure, has said, we receive more visitors to the Pearl Street Mall. I don't know if she has told you guys this, but more visitors to the Pearl Street Mall than Rocky Mountain National Park does.
Not Rocky,
No,
other most national parks.
Over a year? I'd say more. But it's counting.
How many? How many people?
I think it's over 5 million last year.
For the Pearl Street Mall?
Yeah, I think Rocky gets about 4.2 to 4.8, so yeah. Million annual visitors, so. Yeah, on our patrols, we will support events in the civic area, Boulder Reservoir, and throughout the system. But some of those events could be, like the Ironman and other triathlons at the reservoir. Arts in the Park concerts at the historic band shell. We also support, Boulder Creek Fest, Taco Fest, Tube to Work Day, Boulder Pride, the farmers markets. I could go on and on and on about how many events are in our downtown area that we support. And, we also support our SAMPS program as well. So one thing that the urban rangers do to do that is go out during encampment notifications and cleanups, not only because we have built a rapport with folks who are experiencing homelessness in our parks, but to have coordination between all the teams, between utilities, the police department, our outreach folks who work at shelter and other places throughout the city. And we've also supported the point in time counts. I don't know if you all saw that email that went out about the July one. We also have one in January as well. We've also helped support SAMPS during the cold weather emergency shelter, the one that we operate out at East Boulder Rec Center almost every winter now. So, yeah. Almost, just the last two. Well, the two that I've been here, so. Yeah, and we're currently leasing 3 security camera trailers. I don't know if you've been out and about in our parks and seen these. We have 6 total for the city, so 3 are with our utilities department and 3 are with parks. But basically, police, dispatch, utilities and parks all has access to that footage and can, try to address major vandalism happening in our parks that the urban rangers either were not around when it's happening or, it's a much bigger criminal thing that urban rangers can handle. Yeah.
While she moves to the next one, I just updated facts. I was wildly wrong on Pearl. It's like 1.7 million based last year based on cell phone data.
Oh,
So it's more than most national parks, but not Rocky. Rocky's still better. More than.
all right.
Everybody's so.
Not Rocky, not on Pearl Street Mall, not in.
Maybe when we get Sundance.
It's a lot of people.
So most of our patrols as urban rangers are proactive. We generally know in the parks where things are happening, at what time, when we need to be there, and to talk to people to try to prevent issues from happening. But however, we also do get calls for service, just like any other law enforcement agency. That's done not only through our personal urban ranger hotline that goes directly to one of our ranger cell phones when they're on duty, but through Inquire Boulder and non-emergency dispatch as well. So service calls, if you want to kind of compare where we're patrolling versus where we're receiving service calls. Nope, go back. Okay. We try to hit everywhere. We try to hit all the parks. That big green dot up there, that's area 3, which is not developed at all. So that's why we don't really go there. We try to hit all the parks. But if there's areas that the community feels are needing enforcement presence, but maybe not police presence, they can call us and we will go out and address whatever issues that they're having there. So our top parks for service calls, you can see up there, but Pearl Street Mall is a big one. The Civic and Central area, Sinton Park, which is next to the Dairy Arts Center, Eben G. Fine, North Boulder Rec Center, and the list goes on. And then enforcement. So again, each dot is a entry into our data collection system where we have enforced rules and regulations. So this includes both warnings, people that we talk to about rules and regs and they correct the behavior immediately, and then also issuing summons. So less than 10% of our enforcement contacts actually result in a summons being issued, which I would say is a very good number to keep in mind, because what we're trying to achieve as urban rangers is not ticketing. It is educating people to make sure that the most amount of people can enjoy the park. And then our most common violations, as you can see, are dogs running at large, prohibited items. Those are things such as propane tanks and tents, and then public consumption of alcohol or other substances like marijuana. And then some of the initiatives that we've been really working on this year, Ali said we were, building the program these last couple of years. And so last year we did a lot of that. We have laid the groundwork and now we're moving on to bigger initiatives so that our community knows who we are. So that's what a lot of our outreach initiatives are right now. It's going to What's Up Boulder, National Night Out with the police department, block parties such as the Primos Park naming party, formerly Violet. And then we've also hosted or will host 3 Coffee with a Ranger events. I'm excited for the South Boulder, what what are they called now? They just named themselves that group.
Oh, save South Boulder. Yeah.
Okay, for them to join us, October 20th at Harlow Flats / the Rec Center, to meet all of them, so that'll be fun. The Coffee with a Ranger events, are hosted with our open space rangers as well. So it's really for the community to learn about the differences between the open space and mountain park rangers and the urban rangers. At these events, we provide free coffee and get feedback from the community on what they're seeing in the parks, what they're concerned about, any questions that they might have about rules and regulations, and really just to get to know the rangers, who we are, what we're about, and how we can serve them. So. And then our Junior Explorer activity booklet. This is something that we hope will be really successful into the winter and next year with monthly swearing in ceremonies. The idea is that kids can pick these up at rec centers, they can see us in parks and fill out all the activities. 8 of the 10 pages is fine for us, 80%. And then come to the North Boulder Rec Center for a swearing in ceremony, receive a little badge. It'll be fun just to connect with all the kids that are out and about in our parks. It's modeled after, you know, the National Park Service, their campaigns for Junior Ranger booklets. And it's something that I don't think has been provided, kind of like a choose your own adventure in our parks in town. So, yeah. And then our other big initiative that we have done this year is supporting the Pearl Street Mall. So in addition to patrolling with our downtown ambassadors to address dogs, smoking, dismount zones, just to name a few, we also created a new seasonal position to monitor the Pearl Street Mall restrooms. This is Ronnie. Ronnie's great. He is a very friendly face. He used to be an ambassador and was trained as a ranger. And now he is down at the Pearl Street Mall 4 days a week and is supplemented security by private security there as well through the rest of the days and hours that the restroom is open. So I just want to quote the Boulder Police Department with how effective this has been. Officers said they haven't been getting any calls for service and almost all of the previous issues and problems have disappeared. The bathrooms are being utilized by visitors and are the cleanest they've ever been. We're looking to continue this program in 2025. And some of the issues that this program has addressed is like obstruction and drug use in the stalls of the restrooms. Facilities also installed sensors in each of the stalls so that Ronnie gets notifications whenever bad behavior is happening in there. Yeah, and then this started around the same time that Bands on the Bricks started. So we were down there as well as our facility monitor to support the Bands on the Bricks concerts. All right, so that's what we've been up to. I hope it was fun. Please take these to your kids. If you would like a wooden Junior Ranger badge, please fill them out. Bring them to the North Boulder Rec Center. Yes.
Man, Ronnie is his name. The guy, he deserves some serious props.
Oh, yes.
I want to just double click on something there. The magic of Ronnie is that he has the outreach and social work training to relate to the folks that we know there is such an intersection of people experiencing homelessness and substance abuse issues and mental health issues. And he has incredible de-escalation skills and he has the line to enforcement. So we always talk about in our public spaces work, it is constantly the balancing the both and Ronnie is a unicorn of a solution that I'm very grateful this team said, yeah, we will do that because everybody was so thrilled. And to be clear, it also kept the bathrooms open for people experiencing homelessness who don't have bathrooms downtown. And so it is a big win.
It's great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Anybody questions or comments? Jenny, don't want to forget about you.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say that I did the, sorry, this thing's touchy. I did the point in time count with, Sam, in January. And it was extraordinary to see how wonderfully he treated the people who we went to see. They knew him by name. They were, I mean, they didn't want to talk to me. I mean, he's the one in the uniform, and they were, very willing to talk to him. He was very kind and friendly with everybody. I think it's an extraordinary program, and I'm really glad I got to experience that firsthand. And just the fact that, I mean, we're running into random groups of people and he would know half of them by name was, it was just extraordinary. So congratulations on a wonderfully run program.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
As always. Thanks for bringing gifts.
I have more, you have friends, so.
Okay, next item is Play Boulder.
So excited that Ms. Angie Jeffords is here. She's the executive director of Play. Those of you who were at the golf tournament, some of you played in the golf tournament, plays first at Flatirons. I think it was on your request. This board has a lot of interest in alternate funding to help address our needs. There's been a lot of questions and interest in fundraising. So Angie's here to talk about both the board and the fundraising that's coming up.
And I think I'm gonna kick us off, if that's all right.
Please.
Yeah, and Rosie, you don't mind driving? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Is the toolbar okay where it is? Cool.
Also here. We put at the top that I. Excellent. All right, Brian Beery, Senior Recreation Manager. I support our community building partnership efforts. And part of my role is acting as the liaison to Play Boulder as our nonprofit partner foundation. Before we jump over to Play immediately, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping and grounding today's conversation and some policy direction reminders that we have from our 22 department plans. So Rosie, if you jump to the next one, please. Thanks. Under that financial sustainability key theme, we've committed to increase our non-traditional funding by improving process, investing resources towards pursuing new funding, and working more closely with our partners to do so. Again, this was one of the bolded goals under financial sustainability for us. Rosa, can you go to the next one? Since 2022 and approval of the department plan, we've been busy. We engaged with a consultant in 2021 for the development of a formal external funding strategy. We've invested in dedicated staff resources towards grant support, and we've had that in place since last summer. Enhanced our most recent MOU with the Play Boulder Foundation, particularly in the areas related to placemaking and support for community-initiated projects. And then we work to better package our prioritized projects into an attractive stewardship opportunities deck so that Play and department staff are aligned when we're steering interested community members towards these prioritized projects. A few quick notes for you, and Angie, you can jump in later if I miss anything. On the nature of the department's relationship with Play, they've been our nonprofit partner foundation since 1976, so almost 50 years in this role, and they act as an umbrella for all fundraising projects and initiatives for the department. Compared with some other agencies, this is a relatively mature structure to streamline efforts with one organization rather than having individual groups or fundraising initiatives with a different partner for each project. It's really nice to have this relationship. And we've had a great track record recently on enhancing projects with community support. Some of the more recent ones were the Chautauqua Playground renovation, Valmont Bike Park added a pump track. Before that, we had enhancements at the Creekside Playground next to the main branch of the library. And then Play has been deeply involved in other major projects in the past, like Boulder Reservoir and Scott Carpenter Pools redevelopments. You should also know that we work with Play on many other things beyond just capital projects. We collaborate on a very robust tree trust and community forest core youth program to support the urban canopy that I think you've read about in consent agendas recently. And Play provides ongoing support for community programs like YSI and Expand, and then also support better access to recreation programs through the Play Pass scholarship program. So lots of different touches we have with Play. All that said, the department does manage a few aspects of external funding or alternative funding internally. Those are things that include a very successful memorial tree and memorial bench stewardship program that we administer in-house. And as one point of differentiation for what we're going to be discussing tonight, the department really takes the lead in managing the pursuit of public-private partnerships, in contrast to really more of these philanthropic relationships. So those public-private partnerships are, they do have monetary consideration in there, but there's an exchange of services to the mutual benefit of both parties is really how we structure that. What we're sharing with you this evening is an update about placemaking philanthropy. And so that is opportunities where the foundation can come alongside our capital improvement program to help extend projects beyond our baseline commitment that you've heard about is the taking care of what we have. So Rosa, if you move to the next slide, I think you've all seen our CIP. It is lengthy, so you might be curious about how we could possibly choose which projects to prioritize. Well, one of those deliverables in the external funding strategy we pursued was the development of an annual process and a set of core principles that help identify those projects that have that convergence of mission. They have a funding gap, there is strong community interest, and there's feasibility for enhancement. That's not always something that's a component on some of these projects. And so this summer, we took this process in one hand and we took the CIP in the other hand. We met with our department leadership, our planning team, and then Play Boulder to select 3 prioritized projects. And that's what we're going to detail and share fundraising strategies around tonight. So drum roll, please. Rosa, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. These projects are the construction of additional courts recommended in the court system plan, starting with the East Boulder Community Park courts, renovation of North Boulder Park, and the development of Primos Park. I think some of these are familiar and you'll speak a little bit more to those, but at this point, again, I'll hand it over to Angie Jeffords, Executive Director for Play Boulder Foundation. You can tell us more about the organization and strategies and timeline for campaigns.
Well, I'm going to take just a moment, if you don't mind, and indulging me a second and talk a little bit about myself and about Play. I've met some of you before and have enjoyed really nice conversations and worked with you in a variety of our programming areas. As Brian has mentioned, we have several areas beyond the placemaking that we work with Boulder Parks and Recreation Department as well as the community. And so excited to have worked with many of you in that capacity. Again, my name is Angie and I myself am legally blind. I'm losing my vision and I'm a strong advocate in the disability community and have represent myself in that capacity. And I think as part of someone that operates in the world as a person with a disability, I hope I bring that voice to the work that we do at Play Boulder. I just so happened to have had cataract surgery late on Thursday. And my eyes, having already had their own issues, are having a little bit of a problem adjusting. I've just had the one left eye done. And so the lights and adjustments are a problem for me. And so this kind of PowerPoint tracking is a little bit of a struggle. So I'm leaning deeply into Brian today. And so mostly just wanting to have a conversation with you tonight, want to be able to answer your questions and then follow a little bit of my notes and talk through it with you. So I hope you indulge me in my trying to stay focused on that, but I wanted to give you that background and also share with you. So in terms of Play Boulder, I also want to do just a little bit of bragging for one moment. In January of 2022, we had 2 part-time staff members, 1 part-time, basically executing our Play Pass program, one of whom was working a slightly less than 30 hours a week and one who is working probably less than 10 hours a week. And as of today, we have 5 full-time staff members. So in less than roughly 2.5 years, we have 12 seasonal youth corps crew members, 55–60% of whom were part of the identified as people in the BIPOC community, all under the age of 18 years old, and a couple of interns and a couple of consultants to boot. So we've really grown our capacity in the organization in the last 2.5 years, and have a rock star team. And so we feel like as we've moved into our MOU with the Boulder Parks and Recreation Department, that we're really in a place that we can focus on our product, what we're able to collaborate with the Parks program in terms of our placemaking, more than just some of the smaller bench kinds of opportunities, but really be able to partner and collaborate in fundraising campaigns, really some of the capital campaign building. And so we went through the process that Brian explained to really identify what is it that Play is passionate about, what follows our vision and the work that we're doing across the organization, and what also matches what Parks is identifying as a community-driven vision for enhancements. And so we landed on these 3 projects that both the Parks Board, you all, and the department feel like are rising to the top, and that Play really feels passionate about putting our energy behind as well. And so I'm going to start with the East Boulder.
Yep,
Right, here we
got it.
go, the
Yes.
community parks. And I want to make sure that I'm respectful of all your time. So I think what I'm going to do is, I do know that we have the top white half and the bottom, I think it's green.
Yes.
Part that is really more about our strategies for fundraising. And I think we want to talk mostly about those with you in terms of what I have to share tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the Q&A. But in the white part, it really identifies why these parks, what it is we're looking for. In this case, we're really talking a lot about the passion and community interest in tennis and pickleball. I was going to say tickleball. Tennis and pickleball, and certainly, as we heard earlier this evening, about having some indoor opportunity for people to play in. And so that's where we're really looking at appealing to the community. And so in this way, we feel like our fundraising strategy will be in the term affinity groups, but in my mind, it's really talking to people like the gentleman that was online tonight. Really engaging that passion in the community. And I do believe I heard he said they're ready to fundraise. So let's talk to those groups. Let's engage them. Let's say, okay, you know, I'm here now. The Play Foundation is ready to do that fundraising. And so let's make it happen. And we're ready to implement. And so let's talk to the groups. Let's find out where our priorities are. In this case, we feel like the Dome is one of the priorities. So then let's talk to some of the major donors in the community, some sponsorships, perhaps some of the vendors that might be willing to come on board and work with us. And so we feel like the social engagement and the competitive incentives within the court community might be a good place to focus our fundraising efforts. So that's really kind of how we're focusing the strategies for the East Boulder fundraising campaigns. And at the end of the slides, we'll talk a little bit about our timelines, but that's kind of what we're looking at for the East Boulder appeal process. I think
Thanks.
we'll move on to North Boulder.
Yeah.
North Boulder is very special to me. I grew up in Boulder and actually have been here for about 50 years. So I've got a lot of you beat, for better or worse, I don't know. Spent a lot of my special growing up time at North Boulder Park. And so again, in the white part, there's a lot of reasons for why North Boulder Park is going to be a great opportunity for growth and enhancement, a lot of the nature play and we definitely need to do something about that picnic community gathering space. But in terms of fundraising, again, this is a really broad opportunity for fundraising, I believe. We have a youth teen opportunity there, 3 to 12-year-old groups, age range for that, for some of those park enhancements that we're looking at doing there. But then also, there's a lot of youth and teen programming in Boulder, a lot of partners that already exist, organizations that I think we can tap into and work with, and together create opportunity in this really nice large park in a real central part of town. And I think that's where we believe we can do a lot of collaborative work in terms of fundraising. And then I think with some of the climate and sustainability, climate solution work around there, you know, I think some of you, I suppose Prab has talked in the past about some of the water issues around that area. I think it's a good place for us to talk. I mean, there's a lot of grass there. There's some turf solutions we might be able to work with. And so I think that looking at some of the environmental opportunities in terms of grant making and funding could be an opportunity there for fundraising, as well as looking at my notes. Some of the nature play, which is also really popular right now in terms of funding and in advancement grant. What are the other bullets there? Oh, community gathering place also is another place that we were talking about. And community matches and sponsorships. I think we can look at big donors. I think North Boulder Park feels like it's the opportunity for the most general traditional fundraising. And we also have folks that have been involved in the history with the Red Zinger, with the cross-country community that spends time going around there. I think we have a lot of action groups, people that really enjoy it, so we can go into those individual communities and really get them excited about things that we can do there together if we have the funds to do them. And so really being able to tap into that. Did I miss a bullet on that one that I can? Okay.
You got it.
Then I think Primos is especially exciting to me after listening to the South Boulder group. So I said I lived in Boulder for 50 years. My adult life and my children's life for probably about 33 years has been spent in South Boulder. And listening to that group of people, my people, if you will, talk about the neighborhood. And I really do feel it. Everything from the tragedies that have happened to our neighborhood to the celebrations that have happened in our neighborhood. Primos Park is a new neighborhood, I feel like, ready to happen. There's a lot of underserved people in that community, and there's a lot of people who are needing the opportunity to come together. And I think that's something we can really tap into in terms of fundraising and really appeal to a wide variety of funders. I think we have grant matching opportunities there. I think that once again, we have a lot of climate creativity there in terms of water and bringing the integrating the community and some of the there's a word in parks that I don't totally know, but the where's Mark Davison when I need him? The biophilia, the way, in my mind, that's how the water integrates into the community and the community benefits from it all. Like, how does it become part of the park and part of the area? And I think that like the bridge going over and everyone learning the importance of it and experiencing that. And I think that's a pitch that we can give and all grow from. And I think that funders will appreciate that. I think grantors will appreciate that. And I think community will give to that. So I think those are places that we can appeal to. I think that We'll also have, a lot of major donors that could be interested. Some of the capital campaign opportunities in terms of brick and mortar, actual things that we can point to say that we're going to be able to build and do there. Links that we can make between the school, the library, the different neighborhoods, the community action that can take place. I myself have spent some time up there. I was heavily involved in the Safe Routes grant and spent some time as a person with a disability talking about how in the world do we get around that area without sidewalks and safe access and equitable access. And I think that's another place where we'll be able to tap into like-minded communities and be able to do organizational projects and fundraising that will team all of us up together to be able to, I think, hope successfully raise funds to be able to produce what I hope is that new community hub, that same feeling that we have in South Boulder after years of spending time together in that neighborhood. And I think that eventually that neighborhood in Nobo will be that way as well. So those are dreams and visions, but I also think they're realities. I think that's exactly the capacity that Play Boulder has. I think it's exactly the capacity that this community has and the taste that we have right now in each of those areas for a variety of reasons that I won't take you guys all through right now, but happy to answer more questions about. That these three projects are prime for this kind of fundraising and for this kind of opportunity. In terms of, oh, you
And I can
you
speak
have
to
one
this
more.
next one.
Yeah, that's right.
While we're highlighting these three as, and we keep using this word prioritized projects, and I think that's exactly the right way we're trying to position them. The door is not closed for other opportunities. And so again, working in that external funding strategy, we developed some process as part of that recommendation on what we've called community initiated projects, and have some structure around that now. I think we lived in a world previously where there might be some loud voices advocating to come together towards a project that might not fit otherwise, either in the work plan or in feasibility or in the reality of a space. And there wasn't a way to equitably kind of hold those against each other to look at the team's work plan. And so and see what might be possible. And so there is some structure now to do some donor interest tracking for groups that might come or individuals that might come with interest, a semi-annual vetting process that we undertake with our planning team, and then some thresholds for quicker review and approval for things that maybe don't need the resources of one of our project planners, but could be executed by one of our facility supervisors. And it could be a very small project that has a deep impact to a community, trying to have that structure, but then also try to speed things up where we can. And then part of that also includes a little bit of a better framework around donor recognition and how that ties in. We piloted this a little bit this past year, and I think you saw in the consent agenda again with the Military Officers Association and their donation at Bill Bauer Park that's underway right now. They have acted very much as a model for bringing forward interest, collaborating on a program that they are largely funding, and how we might be able to take that through a process, and how we might be able to learn from that. So that's been successful. And again, thank you to Play and Angie for working with those folks. Rosa, do you mind moving on to the last one I think we have here for timeline or campaign timeline for Angie?
So I want to go through this, but I also were able to take a breath and a drink and really want to make sure that I'm grounding all of this passion and interest in reality. And I want you all to hear that we're ready. I think it's just so easy to point to what we've been hearing with tennis and pickleball. The community is primed, they're ready, and they're actually not just screaming that they want it, but they're screaming. And I've met with many people from those communities when I first started that are actually ready to have us to be part of the solution and do the fundraising that it takes to get there. And that's what we're ready to tap into, to stop talking about it and to do the fundraising it takes to get there. So what we plan to do for the next quarter, for the final quarter of this year, is finalize some of the discussions that we need to have with parks in terms of prioritizing the some of the timelines and what was the first one is the
fundraising goals.
the fundraising
The
goals,
costs, yeah.
yeah, some of the fundraising goals and costs. So that we really have those hard numbers to go in with. We have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at, but we want to be able to really identify what, you know, sponsors and donors want to know what numbers we're looking at. So we are planning to do that. We're going to create our final marketing, sponsorship, collateral, that kind of thing. Get our websites cleaned up, make sure it's communicating with the Boulder Parks website, so that we can really have all of our tools and our structures in place this quarter, this final quarter of the year, so that when we move into 2025, that first quarter will be an action-oriented quarter. So we will be, the Play Boulder Foundation will begin to meet with our community groups, start having conversations with gentlemen like the fellow that was on the call this afternoon. You know, let's start talking about what your action plan is. What will events look like? What do we want to do? Here are the priorities. Let's start making the plan. Let's start building a timeline. And do that for each of the identified projects and spend that first quarter doing that, preparing the launch. And then my goal is that by March, so the end of that first quarter, we've had those conversations. Everything is built out. We're prepared to launch. The marketing and PR campaign is set. And that then then it's launched. And then we start the fundraising as it needs to be launched. I won't be surprised if we're actually gathering some money and some funds before then. But by March, we'll start setting the thermometer. We'll start hosting the events, we'll start writing the grant applications, if not before then, depending on what the application deadlines are and just how that moves along. And actually the very active campaign path will be happening through that part of 2025. And then our next window is
I think 26, where we're just evaluating and adjusting as we go.
2026 will just exactly that, just really look at where we're at. I think it's really important to us at Play Boulder. We're kind of functioning as a liaison. We're partnering with parks to make sure that we're listening and hearing the pace at which they're working, how things are adjusting, what falls within what is budgeted for, what's falling out of budget. I'm communicating back with our folks that are raising the money, you know, where are things at? How is that need being met? Hey, guess what? We need this now. How do we want to prioritize it? Tennis folks, you know, we can do X, Y, and Z. What are we gonna, you know, how do we want to do it? Let's focus here. So we'll adjust as we need to, but we'll continue to move that forward, react to it, and communicate about it. And then the plan is 2027, everything will be done, and we'll celebrate, thank our donors, and begin to evaluate what our next campaigns will look like.
And I think the only thing I'd add to that is, you know, as the CIP works also, that it's a rolling cycle of 5 years out. That's the same intent that the strategy would match that.
We'll move
each year
that
gets
through,
updated.
right. Now. Questions? Specifics, I can get more specific.
Yeah, so any questions from the Prab?
I just want to thank you for being here. It's really helpful. And you're right, like we have had a lot of questions and interest in fundraising and how we can support you. And so I think that's my question is like, what can we do?
Well, first of all, we're very excited. We just brought Jenny on to our board of directors. We've long since wanted and as part of both both the Prabs.
I think it's just
What
place
is
charter.
it? Just place charter? Is it
Place
just part of place charter? I was trying, remember if it's on PRABS, that there is a liaison that sits from PRAB on the Play Board of Directors. And so we've finally gotten that. Jenny's been willing to come and serve in that position. So that's been extraordinarily helpful. We also continue to ask for board members to come from the community. So if you guys ever hear of anyone, just as you mentioned, I think Sunny mentioned earlier, you guys will be looking for those new seats. We continue to look for community members that might be interested in serving on our board. If they are not someone that's suited for your board, maybe they would be suited for our board and could help in a very similar way, considering we're doing some, work arm in arm. And of course, please consider sending your passionate folks to me. So I'd love to get the number of the guy that spoke up earlier this evening. He wants to be involved. He'd be the perfect person for me to connect and have coffee with this fall or spring. So that kind of connecting point, you guys will hear it more than I do. And so I'd really appreciate sending people my way.
What else can we do?
Play in our next golf tournament? No. No, I think those are the primary things. Continue to give feedback. If you have a particular passion or interest in any of these three projects, let's have coffee, let's talk, let's see where your passion is, where your interest is, and how we can continue to be both community oriented and also articulate and time sensitive, and just continue to meet our mutual goals.
Thank you. Great. Jenny, did you want to add anything? You're
Yeah, I just,
on the board.
I mean, I do have some questions, and Angie, you and I can probably talk about this separately. I've been lucky to be involved so far in just these first couple of months and with the first annual golf outing, which was super fun. But I just had some questions, and I don't want to take up too much time right now, but I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail about, like, when you approach donors regarding fundraising, first of all, is it your the employees like Greta that are doing most of that fundraising? And when they approach donors, are they asking for specific requests, or are they laying out, this is what we're looking to fund, what would you be interested in? I'm just a little more curious about how Play is actually doing the fundraising for.
Yeah, and I think this will be new. This is the first time that Play's really had the capacity to be this active in the fundraising campaigns like this. So it will be me that will be the lead person working with these campaigns. And then Greta and our new communications and development person, it will really be more Koya Pear is our new full-time communications and development staff person. And it will really be she and I driving those communications. I'll probably be the lead on it, and Koya will be much more alongside of me and helping with a lot of the marketing materials and communications, the social media, the website updates, that kind of thing. And a lot of the personal one-on-one stuff will be probably done more with me sitting down and having conversations like that. And then together we'll maybe have group meetings. And then, that's the kind of thing, if we have a hosting an event or something like that, I'd welcome PRAB members and of course our board members, that kind of thing. I hope to engage our board in more of this as well, to help tell the story and sell the work, if you will. Maybe parks people will be involved as it relates to their particular projects in each of these three areas. So that kind of thing. Does that help clarify a little bit, Jenny?
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Just one request and just a suggestion. So the request is, if there are any events that Play is doing, please invite the PRAB.
Okay.
We would love to be notified of those things.
Great.
And we can certainly, send those opportunities to our networks as well.
Is the best way to do that just through your PRAB emails?
I think that the PRAB email where we get community feedback, it would be a good one-stop shop to notify us. So that'd be great. And then it strikes me that if you're going to, just as a former development person myself, if you're going to pitch to people about specific types of projects, you may want to find examples around Colorado or elsewhere where a community venture like what you're running has helped supplement funding for a specific project that has really created community benefit. So like, for instance, if you're pitching the tennis court plan to somebody and saying you should help fund this, you should have in your, it would be helpful to have an example of like in Austin, Texas, the community foundation worked with the city to build this. And they wouldn't have been able to do it without that community foundation. And so this is similar to that. And we want to make sure that
kind of.
this is that kind of thing. It help like people visualize it and make it more tangible.
That's a great idea. And we do also have projects like the Boulder Reservoir and Scott Carpenter Park that we can speak to a certain degree in our back pocket. And these will even be bigger and more crafted projects now that we're working at this level of detail with these. Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. That's great. And those are the kind of comments with your own individual expertise that we welcome. I mean, this is how we all grow and learn and develop and raise the money we all want to see raised to make these projects come to fruition. We're not a foundation stuffed with money. We're a foundation stuffed with promise. So let's do it.
And are you a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Great. Thank you so much again. And I just want to say I played in the tournament, the inaugural golf tournament.
Soon now annual.
Soon to be annual. And it was really fun.
Good.
You
Thank
did
you
a
so
great
much.
job. Thank you, Jenny, for the invite. But that was really
We
great.
owe a lot of our, Jenny's previous knowledge of golf helped us feel much more confident in executing it. Thank you.
She's a good golfer.
Well, thank you all very much for entertaining me tonight and
Thank you so much.
I'll let you continue with your meeting. Yeah, so great. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, and then we have, last but certainly not least, Jackson Height with our fee policy update.
Your favorite topic.
Yeah, at the end of the meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will keep this fairly short. I will introduce myself just for the record. Jackson Height Business Services Manager. I had Megan Lohman and Scott Schuttenberg here for some questions, and then Stacy is enjoying the night at home. And is still hanging in if there's any questions that can be answered. The memo itself was very short. This is kind of setting the stage for the October and November meetings. I am going to go over the department plan, the fee policy, just give you an understanding of where we are through the end of August, given that that was our summer seasons, and then talk to you about the fee update process. And then finally, we'll just highlight the long-term financial strategy that Ali provided us a quick overview on earlier. So back in 2022, City Council and the PRAB adopted the BPR plan, formerly called the Master Plan. This identifies what our core services and community priorities are, and it sets 3 different levels of funding, just fiscally constrained, action, and vision. What we're really focused on is the fiscally constrained environment, based on what we've heard from City Council, the Finance Department. We are having flattening revenues that just aren't keeping pace with our expenses. Within the department plan, there is an entire theme focused on financial sustainability. That's theme 2. And within that, there are multiple initiatives that basically identified we needed to develop and create a fee policy. So for the members who were on PRAB last year, I know that you spent several months going through the process of creating a fee policy, and then out of the fee policy came a fee schedule. So this is just giving you the background that this is our guiding policy and direction that we use to set our fees. So it continues to build on itself. For the PRAB members who have been here for multiple years, thank you for touching this. Jenny, I think that you are new to all of this, so this is the Cliff's Notes version as we go through it. The fee policy itself was included as attachment A. I think the highlight in there is this chart really identifies that where the community benefits, taxes pay a bigger portion of our overall cost to deliver that service, and therefore this could be a no cost or a lower cost recovery target. On the right-hand side of the chart is where an individual benefits, and this means that user fees are generating the revenues that cover their expenses to participate in a program class or anything of that nature. So these are typically 100% or high cost recovery, just because they are paying for the service or amenity that they're accessing. So within the fee policy, there was 10 different program types that were identified. These were all provided in your attachment. They include examples and some longer definitions associated with it. I want to highlight for 2025, so what we're working on over the next 2 months is updating the golf course fees and the facility entry fees. The golf course fees were last updated in 2024, and prior to that, it was 2020. Our golf course is one of the top 10 busiest in the state for the driving range, and also has fairly full tee sheets across the board, with some very impressive visitation numbers I'll show you shortly. In terms of the facility entry, starting in 2019, we have updated those fees every 2 years. Our last fee update was in 2023. We are aware that we are at the top of the market, so something that you'll be hearing about next month is our financial aid programs and what we're doing to ensure that there's still accessibility for a variety of users to continue to access our facilities. Unfortunately, with the 2025 budget, our cost to deliver services within the RAF has increased by 6.5%. So costs continue to escalate. Our general fund subsidy is remaining flat, and therefore we do need to generate the fees to continue providing the same level of services that we're accustomed to. Within the rentals, we will have some minimal updates, mainly for anything that's inside of a facility. And then previously we had told you the commercial use and special events would be coming back as part of the 25 fee updates. That is now going through a separate process that's being led, and we'll come back to you in 25 with recommendations, which would likely inform 26 fees. As you heard last month, that has been a pilot program since 2012. Verifying, so yes, so very excited for that. We do have no fees or alternative mechanisms for everything else, so I won't go over the mechanics behind that, but just wanted to let you know that we're really only focused on the top part of this page, and that's what we're coming back to you with next month when we update the fee schedule. I just wanted to give you a quick update as far as how we're doing financially year to date. This is January through August, going back to 2019. The stacked bars that are at the back of the chart indicate where the year-end actual or where the year-end finished. And then for 2024, we do have our revised budget on there. Green is the revenue, blue is the expenses, and then the stacked outline bars that you see on top of that is where we're at through the end of August. We do collect the majority of our revenue in the first 3 quarters of the year, and you'll see this on another slide. But this is really highlighting that the 23 actuals, the 24 developed budget, and then the 25 budget that's not on here are basically even with revenues and expenses. And we had already factored in a fee increase as a placeholder. So the work that we're doing is to really align with that. This is the chart that I wanted to highlight. This goes back and shows some key performance metrics across the Recreation Activity Fund going from 2019 through 24. I want to call your attention to the far right-hand column. That shows the percentage increase from 23 through 24. And you can see we've had double-digit increases in our earned revenue, centers visitation, outdoor pools visitation, Boulder Reservoir visitation, and the rounds of golf played. I think this is a sign that we're really establishing what our new normal is. And you can see that everything is now higher than pre-pandemic levels in 2019, with the exception of recreation center visitation. And what we've seen over the last 2 months is these numbers are starting to exceed 2019 visitation. So we do think that we have a new normal moving forward, and probably by the end of the year should exceed 2019's total visitation. I say this just because recreation as an industry is volume-based. The more people that we can get into a facility, participate in the program, helps us minimize the costs in any fee increases, just because there are more people that are participating, and so many of our larger expenses are the personnel and fixed costs for operating our buildings and facilities.
Are you saying that you anticipate that the rec center visitation numbers will meet or exceed the 2019 numbers as well?
By the end of the year, yes, they should. Okay. July and August visitation exceeded 2019 for July and August. We just had a slower first quarter of the year. This chart just shows it in a different way. The red line that you see on the top is the 2019 revenue, or I'm sorry, the 2024 revenue year to date. You can see that our trends are very consistent with the blue, which is 2019, and then also the green line, which is 2023. We have generated an additional $1 million compared to 2019, and we're up about $360,000 compared to this time last year. You will see our revenues are very seasonal and consistent. We're about to enter our slower time of the year where we have less revenue coming in. And then obviously with the holidays, we have a ramp up as people get excited for the New Year's fitness. So part of the benefit of delaying this conversation about the fees until after the summer season is we have seen more of a recovery, that I think that we can be a little bit more conservative in our fee projections for 2025 because we have had such sustained growth this year. So as I mentioned, PRAB is going to be reviewing the fee schedule. The fee schedule is basically our menu of these are our fees. The current fee schedule is included in your packet as attachment B. This is about 10 pages. We have a lot of fees. We have a lot of different programs. This is intended to help our staff as well as community members and user groups understand what it's going to cost to participate in a program. As you might remember from last year, the fees are separated from the codified fees. So they don't require city council approval, but they do go through a process called the city manager rule. Once PRAB gives a recommendation and approval over the proposed fees, it will go through a public noticing process. And then our goal is to implement new free fees on January 1st. All of the programs that we do offer on January 1st are free to the public. So in reality, it's January 2nd, but very excited to continue with that process. I already touched on this a little bit, but the engagement strategy is very important because of anytime we're increasing fees. Bernie, thank you for saying earlier, PRAB didn't get here to close rec centers. I don't think you got here to increase fees. But we like to identify who's impacted and give them some advance notice that any fee increases are coming. And then we do want to highlight our financial aid program. About 1/3 of our overall visitation to rec centers is now provided through the financial aid program or scholarships. And that is something that we will continue to offer. And the eligibility criteria continues to change over time, that we are very happy with the growth that that program has seen to ensure that recreation really is a community recreation focus. We will communicate to impacted users. Most of the users for the rec centers and the golf courses are individuals, but there are some rentals. We do have some aquatic user lanes, aquatic lanes that user groups rent at the pools that will likely be impacted just as we stair-stepped some increases in from last year. And then something I want to highlight is we have a new marketing manager starting next week. We are very excited to have a marketing plan in place for what I'm going to call the seasonal slowdown that we typically see in November and December, to be able to ramp up an increase in activity, an increase in participation, and an increase in revenue that helps the RAF. I think you all know that the RAF really is self-supported, and any revenue that it generates is put back into other programs to ensure that there is equitable access across all of the services we provide. So that is it for tonight as far as the fee update. Next month, we will come back with proposed fees. We'll identify who's impacted, what those dollar amount increases are, what those percentage increases are, and we'll provide some history going back to 2018, just so you can see the trends over time. I will pause here because I went through this really quick, but are there any questions?
Nice job, man. I don't know how you do that.
Easy when I do this all the time. So Ali already mentioned on it, City Council is working on a long-term financial strategy. Basically, Parks and Recreation got a little bit ahead of ourselves with the fee policy and the fee work that we did. And other departments are now starting to go through this process, look at what our levels of services are, create the comprehensive fee study across all departments, not just Parks and Recreation, to hopefully prepare the development of a strategy that would help address some of the concerns we heard earlier tonight. We know within Parks and Recreation, we have a long laundry list of items, so we will make sure to include all of these on the long-term financial strategy. I think we hear regularly from community members, but all of this will get filtered up to City Council. And then finally, I just wanted to give a quick update on the 25 recommended budget. It is still going through city council. Next Thursday, the 3rd, and the 2 weeks after that, on the 17th, are the public hearings at city council. We do have a recommended budget of 44.5 million. That's 35 million focused on the operating budget, 10.5 million on capital budget. The key changes that we really wanted to highlight are there's 4 staff that are converting from fixed term into ongoing. The Urban Ranger program you heard about earlier tonight are 3 of those. And then we have factored in some cost escalation for our materials and services, a potential minimum wage increase for our lower level employees, and then just some career progression across the board. We did make some minor tweaks to our CIP. The biggest is we're continuing to focus on our big projects. We will eliminate some of the projects that were underfunded, just recognizing that those dollars could be better spent aligning with other projects that are underfunded that are closer to being shovel ready and have a greater need identified in the 22 department plan. So that's really the focus on the 25 recommended budget. As I mentioned, we will come back to you in next month, October, and let you know what has happened after the final public hearing. And then all changes would take effect on January 1st as well. So that's really where we're at with the budget process, the fee process. I will be back the next 2 months, so I'm sorry, but I will try and keep it as short and simple as tonight.
Any questions or comments for Jackson?
Sorry, yes. Just because we heard so much tonight about the rec center, I just did a quick look, and today our entry fee for the rec center is the same as Louisville. I would say that at least if you live in South Boulder, like maybe you're getting worse service at the South Boulder rec center than you might at Louisville. So I just think we should be careful about raising our rates and driving people away from our facility.
Yes. We hear that and we understand. I think it's a fine balance between balancing our revenues and expenses. But we do want to focus on as minimal of a fee increase as possible.
And one thing we really focus on is we know the daily entry rate is a little bit higher, but we really encourage people to buy a monthly or an annual pass, and then it becomes much more affordable.
Yeah.
You just raised something I never really thought about, but that the services that are offered at South Boulder are different than east and north, and each have the same fee.
Why is that? Evaluated that multiple times and asked the community, like, and looked at different models. Actually, I should let Megan or Scott take that question.
You just took a drink. You want me to take it? Yeah, no, we've asked that specific question. And actually, I think Ryan was the one who drafted the survey. And right now, what has led our decisions is the fact the community says they want one pass that has given them access to everything. And that's certainly something that we can continue to evaluate because things change and the cost of services at select locations change. But for right now, I mean, while people might use the South Boulder Rec Center every day for the one thing they do there, they might be using the other facilities for other things. And right now the pass gets them into all of those places, the outdoor pools and the reservoir as well. But our data so far has told us to keep it together.
Great. And then you said that when's the next action item for us? That in October?
Discussion item will be in October, action item would be in November.
Okay, got it. Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Quorum.
Yeah, just trying to remind folks when things are coming up. All right, so the last item is matters from the board. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank all the staff for your help tonight, your presentations, and for sticking with us this late. Thank you very much. So matters from the board, I'll just open it up for comment. Would like to share. Do we want to address the upcoming study session / retreat? Do we have any updates on that, or do we just want to share what's on our mind?
I don't have any further updates on that.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, we're meeting with Ellie on Friday and we'll have updates after that. Do you have anything to add to that? It's not.
Was that question? Oh, anything to add?
About the study session.
No, I mean, I think we kind of covered it last time and then we'll refine it with Ally on Friday. And then we should have, I guess our will Rosa create the agenda for that, or is that something that I should do?
I think we'll cover that on Friday.
Okay, great.
Thank you both for your work on that. Really appreciate it. Anybody want to share anything that's on their mind?
Yeah. I wanna, I think it's Rosa who's involved in this, the coffee truck at South Boulder. Is that you? He was mentioning a Rosa. Rosa, right?
That would be Rosa.
Rosa, okay. Well, there, if those of you don't know, there's a coffee truck now. 3 days a week, will be 5 days a week, at Harlow Platts. And talking to Brian, the owner and barista, he's super happy with the way it's going. Every time I drive by, he's busy. People are loving it. I've heard lots of buzz in the neighborhood about it. And I'm really happy because I've been mentioning this idea that like having food or coffee would really activate that space because it gets a lot of traffic. And he did mention that he will be moving from North Boulder to Harlow Platts. I think he's there 2 days a week for North Boulder and will be just 5 days a week at Harlow Platts because there's just a more consistent stream of both foot and car traffic. So just again, another thing to like register what a hub that South Boulder campus really is, that there's a lot of people using it and going by there and more people that would use it given more activity and opportunities. So anyway, just thank you for whoever allowed that to happen. He also mentioned that it feels like a trial period and that currently they're not charging him anything to be there. And he was surprised at that and would be willing to pay. So again, looking at income streams, like, I just think it's something that I would love to see people look into more and find more opportunities for that to happen.
Where is he parking?
He parks in the parking lot, kind of close to the restroom, I think, or maybe there's a middle one, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think away from the restroom, but in that parking lot.
That's great.
Yep.
And when is he there?
Very soon, it should be every morning from like 7 to noon or 8 to noon.
So weekends too.
Oh, sorry, no, Monday through Friday.
Okay, got it. All right.
Sorry, I thought of one more thing. Yeah, speaking of Harlow Platts, my wife and I spent a couple hours watching the cyclocross race that happened there a couple weekends ago. It was really fun to see the park activated in that way. I used to organize cyclocross races, and I don't know our feelings about it or the department's feelings about it, but it's great that the department has enabled the race to happen. I know it's sometimes there can be concerns about damage to turf or other damage to the park, and it's nice to see us overcoming that.
One of the things I worked on in 2016 or 17 was guidelines for cyclocross. There are concerns, but they're manageable and it's a great activity if it's done right.
Yeah, I imagine the Frisbee golfers probably don't love it for the one day, but they don't.
They do, but they don't own the park. Love their energy, don't own the park. Yeah. Boulder High has their home cross country meet Saturday, October 5th. It's going to be very, very busy. It's one of the best meets in the state.
Okay.
She says with no bias.
I'll just say that, just to clarify, I did participate in the Play Boulder golf tournament. It was really great to be at a golf tournament at Flatirons Golf Course, which is in great condition. And just a lot of kudos to the folks there. The whole course was great. I had a blast. And I'm looking forward to doing it next year. I was really thrilled to do the ribbon cutting. That was my third ribbon cutting on this board. My first was the reservoir building. The second was Scott Carpenter Park with the pool, and then this. And it's been just amazing to think about all the progress we've made as a city and a department, like just in the 4 years I've been on this board. And just the amazing new facilities that we've opened. And I'm just so excited for the next couple of years too. And the ribbon cuttings that you guys are gonna get to do when I'm not here someday.
So love for one to not be in the middle of the workday.
Yes. That would be nice.
For me, I mean, probably not for you, but
it would be nice. And then the other thing I'll mention is that I went to a block party over this past weekend where the Bill Bauer guys were there, the is it MOAA? They were great and they recognized me from the meeting. They're like, aren't you on the Parks Board? And so I chatted with them for a while and they were very complimentary of staff saying, you know, this has really been a smooth process to work with BPR. And so they're really appreciative. And so I'm just so glad that that's moving along so smoothly. So thank you. And with that, let's get out of here. It's late, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Jenny.